Today, the outcome of the US 500 could very well be dictated by something that's very inefficient. Instead of a wing, these cars carry what's known as the Handford Device. Quite simply, it's a super speedway wing with an 18-inch piece of carbon fiber at the trailing edge. Drivers say that it reduces the downforce. It also increases the drag. They also say it's like driving with a parachute.
With that Handford Device in place, drafting is going to be more important today than any time in recent memory in championship-type racing. But it's not the kind of drafting that we've gotten used to in the past. Drivers tell us now, if you're coming out of turn 4, even if the next car in front of you is more than half the way down the long front straightaway, you will gain 10 to 12 miles per hour as you close up in the vacuum. That's why we got trap speeds 247 miles per hour.
Normally you think on an oval of guys riding around here in top gear all the way around, but with the draft giving you 10 miles per hour additional on the straightaway, that will not be the case this year. Many drivers will have 3 top gears, one when they run on their own, a second top gear when they're behind one car, and then a third top gear when they're behind or in a group of cars. Now, none of the drivers know how much they're going to be shifting, but remember, it does put extra taxing mechanical on the car.
With the green flag, 500 miles, 250 laps ahead of them, and we are underway.
Bob, they brought him down very slowly there. They wanted to get a good start, keep them side by side, but it bunched up the back of the pack.
Keep in mind, there are questions in every driver's mind about what that Handford Device on the back of his car will mean in terms of running in this kind of traffic. It is Vassar, Allenzer Jr. up into second, and look at him 3 wide down in turn 3.
Well, this is 500 miles, but Al Jr. wants to lead that first lap.
There he is, up high over Jimmy Vassar as they flash across the start-finish line to complete lap 1. Adrian Fernandez now being attacked. Jim Swintel holds the green flag, waves it. We're underway. 500 miles for $1 million. And immediately the field is spread all the way across the 75-foot width of the racetrack. Onto the backstretch, the fastest part of this 2-mile oval. Speeds of over 240 miles an hour entering turn 3.
And just what we've seen at Michigan, they are not waiting for the 500 miles. They're racing right away, and Michael Andretti wants to be in the lead.
As always, Michael Andretti going for it. With Jimmy Vassar up high, Andretti tucks into second.
By a good interval. Green, green, green. This time they say it's go. 3 wide into the first turn. Rest of the field follows. Montoya with a quick early move. Vassar fades to third. Vassar fades even further. Now Montoya being chased by Fernandez down the backstretch. Michael makes a move. Michael Andretti brings it down to the inside, chases Montoya in second. Coming to the conclusion of the lap, Montoya crosses the line, but Michael comes to the inside at the same time. Vassar works on Fernandez. With how they start the field, the drivers requested it. They say if a guy screws it up and misses a shift, that's his problem. And here we go. We're ready. The final 500 miles of the season. Look at the move to the inside. Look at Pappas, Target, Canassi both come up into the second position, and they start to battle. Michael Andretti comes around. Michael looking for racing room to the inside. Pappas takes the lead. Scott Pruitt fades badly onto the backstretch. 4 wide now, heading for turn 3. Everybody else safely through the first and second turn. Pappas comes around off of turn 4 on the high bank. Nice wide track. Plenty of racing room, and Pappas leads them across the line for lap number 1. Michael Andretti now challenges for the lead. Michael takes the lead going into the first. Paul Tracy is bringing the field toward the green flag. Christian Fittipaldi closes up nice and tight on Paul Tracy. We wait in. Here we go. The 500 miles is underway, and already they go 5 wide.
Joe DeFerrin almost making contact with Christian Fittipaldi, and DeFerrin takes the lead going into the first quarter.
DeFerrin comes screaming forward, while at the same time, everybody looks for racing room. Franchitti comes down low. Montoya comes up to the front. Michael slots into second. And DeFerrin drops back to third. They come 3 wide.
It shows you how quickly things can change here. Montoya started 7th, and he leads the opening lap.
It's close as they come across the line. Montoya, Andretti, then DeFerrin. Franchitti in fourth. Consider track record blaze this track. They pick up the speed as they come off of 4. The front row. DeFerrin and Andretti already taking a look toward the green flag. Green flag is out. DeFerrin jumps to the lead, and here we go. Castroneves moves very, very high. He's been there most of the week. Down low, it's Montoya that takes a look at second place to battle with Castroneves. The 2 Newman-Haas cars drop back. Fittipaldi and Michael Andretti and go side by side coming off the corner. Castroneves now looks for the lead. Is his job here today to play the rabbit to DeFerrin?
I would think so. I mean, the drivers that have been around 500-mile races know you've got to back off right from the start, conserve the car, try to get the fuel mileage. I'm surprised to see the 2 Penske teammates already fighting for the lead. And he gets to the line first, but those rows are evenly separated.
Ready to come back to the green flag, and here we go. The 500 is underway at Michigan. Tora Takagi looks low. Oh, Pappas looks high. Pappas noses ahead. They come 3 wide off of 2. Breck slides into the lead now. Coming off of 4. Tony Kanaan comes up right behind Tora Takagi for 3rd, moves to the outside, and Pappas takes it at the line. Now Breck comes back to come around Max Pappas. At the same time, Kanaan and Takagi battle.
We knew there'd be passing from the front to the back. On that opening lap, Dario Franchitti passed 4 cars moving up from last place.
Here comes formation, front 2 rows, then some stragglers. Now row 3 comes in, green flag. The final race of the season is underway. Tagliani leads him into turn 1. Breck comes up to challenge on the inside, but D'Amata goes around on the outside.
Tag said he didn't think he'd lead by turn 3. Heck, it was even halfway through turn 2 before Cristiano D'Amata got around the high side.
And that's Brian Herta that goes with D'Amata and goes into second place. And now Herta goes for the lead. Herta looks like he might lead the first lap.
You've got to be thinking already right at the beginning, though, this isn't the lap that you want to lead. You've got to have a great deal of restraint, a great deal of patience, and now Cristiano D'Amata making a move.
Christian
Means for everybody that's out there listening that the car is going, the back end is starting to slide, trying to get away. That's okay in qualifying, but that's not what you want in race condition.
Dario Franchitti has already gone by. Greg Moore now pulling up behind Scott Pruitt. Our pole sitter has a definite problem. Moore down low.
Greg Moore has been marching right through this field. He's passed Bobby Rahal and Big Mo Gugelman the last couple of laps. He's on the march to the front. He said his car was great. Look at him. He's diving down on the inside of Scott Pruitt going in to turn 3 and 4.
And guys, when we talked at the beginning of the show about how happy Greg Moore...
What's he doing, Jan?
Paul, you had mentioned that he had dropped pretty far back from his 13th starting position. I checked with the team, and they said that they thought possibly the car got a little squirrely on him before the tires came up to temperature and up to pressure. But they say, as far as they know, he's A-OK now.
Well, from this view, you can understand how the draft is working. The surge forward, the drift back, the turbulence that affects them at the back of the car. Tracy and Kanaan continue to battle for 3rd place.
And moving back up. Once again, not a crisis until the leader catches you.
Adrian Fernandez back at 17th, driving for Pat Patrick, one of the contenders. Of course, you got Pat Patrick and Jim McGee, Ed Nath, and that whole crew there tracking that car. They'll get it back where they need it by the end of the 500 miles. Look at this little fight, though, as they all come up trying to get around Alex Barron. And Franchitti is the first to have to try and back. And now he comes up right behind Christian Fittipaldi. They're the guys that are making moves. Great move for Franchitti and superb moves for both Tracy and Andretti. Of course, Tracy, he always says, I'm going to the front.
And as I said, a lot of these drivers, a lot of these teams didn't put a lot of emphasis on qualifying simply because the draft is overwhelming here at California Speedway. You've got to set the car up to run in traffic. You use your pit stops to fine-tune the car for this changing track condition. It rained overnight. This is a different track than they tested on and practiced on earlier in the week. And so therefore, as long as they've got the right gears, as long as they've got the right combination, you fine-tune it for that sprint at the end.
At the front of the field, Herta D'Amata, Tagliani, and then Pappas, Jan Pikus.
Parker was just mentioning having the right gear. I can tell you that as these cars go down into turn number 1, I've never heard so many rev emitters. This is the first time they've been able to run in this close proximity. These cars are flying in the draft. Some people have the right top gear, other people do not.
For the Lola teams, they have 7-speed gearboxes. It's an option on the Renards. Not all the teams are running 7-speed gearboxes, and you need 3, even 4 gears to be able to choose from with this sort of drafting action.
And here comes Max Pappas going into 1. He overhauls Cristiano D'Amata. And can he hold on for the lead, though? Down the backstretch. I'll tell you what, there have been some massive charges from the back of the field, not the least of which is Paul Tracy, who's carved his way to the front. Carpentier with Castroneves making his move to the inside. And Castroneves comes forward. Kenny Brack finally gets to Farron and moves to 3rd place. And now starts his pursuit of 2nd place Michael Andretti, who's trying for the lead.
It really doesn't make any difference where you run here. These cars are full throttle all the way around. They simply are looking for balance, a car that works well in traffic. You've seen guys now run all the way around the bottom. Conversely, other guys are running around the top. And look at Montoya now, picks up the draft, trying to slingshot around the outside, going into turn 3, and he does it.
Back and forth they go. Montoya and Michael hammer at one another. 7 laps complete after a nice smooth start. But when they got down into turn 1 on that start, boy, it was anybody's day. Breck back battling with DeFerrin. DeFerrin takes him back.
The speeds have now stabilized in the 224-mile-per-hour range. And it's at this point in the race that their crew chiefs are getting on the radio saying, okay, guys, come on, we've got a long race here. Watch the revs, watch the temperatures.
Just record the last 5 laps and play them back in turn 3 because Montoya and Andretti continue at it. So do DeFerrin and Kenny Brack. Michael goes high on Montoya.
You're right. Clear.
They're listening to the spotters and telling the drivers who they've got behind them or on the high or low side. When you hear they're clear, that means the driver doesn't have to look in the mirror like Kenny Brack is there looking for Christian Fittipaldi.
Christian Fittipaldi tries to go inside of Brack. Helio Castroneves.
And you have to wonder, Michael Andretti always charges, and in a 500-mile race, he has suffered so many times from mechanical failure. Is he pushing too hard too soon? As well as Juan Montoya, who's never driven in a 500-mile race. You look back and you see Jimmy Vasser, you see Paul Tracy, you see Adrian Fernandez content to run back just a little ways, not get involved, passing back and forth and back and forth. In fact, in our picture, you can see Allenser Jr., who's come up from 17th place. He's now up to 10th. He knows how to get to the front, but I don't think he'll push as hard as these two drivers are with so many miles yet to go.
This is already a battle that these two will remember all of their days in racing. Montoya comes back to the front, but unfortunately for Team Hogan, there's already problems, Gary.
The tough luck continues for this team. Castroneves came in reporting loss of power. They pulled the body cowling off. They have just changed the pop-off valve that controls the turbo boost to the amount of pressure to the engine that's forced in there. They're buttoning up the bodywork. They're going to send him out, but he's lost several laps. Just so costly, so frustrating, so early in the day. Engines fired. Helio is back out.
Michael comes back. Montoya comes back at him again. At the same time, sitting back in 3rd place is Fernandez. He's maintained an interval just about half a second back, Jan.
Yes, and of course Parker was saying that he was content to do so.
Around Little Al, he's got to make sure nobody's right alongside of him.
Here comes Michael again. Vasser darts up high over Allenser Jr. Michael Andretti goes low, 3 wide, down into 1. Now Andretti and Vasser wheel to wheel. Our top qualifying speed of 229 miles an hour plus is likely to be slower than some of the race laps we will see when the tow comes into effect.
Bob, let's also not forget these guys are experiencing something they've never experienced before. That new element wing, they've got to really pay attention here. What the cars are doing is something they're experiencing firsthand right now.
See if Michael Andretti's hand goes for the gear lever. Some of these cars running as many as 3 top gears, depending on whether they're running alone or in traffic.
The part that amazes me the most here, I thought we'd see a very conservative start, everybody kind of feel everybody out. And we've got a race here that looks like the last lap on a short sprint race.
3 kart champions battling up front. Al Unser Jr. for the moment has the lead. Now here comes Jimmy Vasser as Michael Andretti watches from behind. And Gilles de Ferran is the blue car to the right of your screen. On board with de Ferran.
And look at every round, Kenny Brack.
Got Tony P3 going for
Oh, look at this, going 3 wide now. Paul Tracy comes up high to work on Brack. Michael closes in. That's Memo Gidley that's in there tight as well. Gidley looking low on Michael. Tracy on Brack. So Tracy is passed. Gidley is passed. Kanon's going to try for second place alongside Herta. When you asked them before the race, almost all of these drivers said, I'm just going to get in the draft and cruise until the last 100 miles or so. Yeah, we see how that resolve is working out here. Michel Jourdain Jr. gets a good jump on the field. Here comes Montoya and Tracy. Tracy around Montoya. Michael rolling now on the back of Juan Montoya. Tracy pulls away. Michael's going to dart to the inside. The draft probably isn't going to work here. He goes for a gear.
We saw that earlier in the year in Michigan. Oh, and now look at him pick up the pace coming through and off the corner. And that's why he went down a gear. He wanted to make sure that that Cosworth was in its maximum peak power position, and that's exactly what he did. But now look at Montoya fight back. On the steering wheel, if they don't go down a gear, one of the other options they have is an overtake button, which puts the power to maximum rich, maximum advance on the engine. The Cosworths have a lot of time in what they call the candy button position. And I think these two drivers right now are utilizing that maximum power capability.
With Michel Jourdain Jr. just ahead of them, Paul Tracy's already moving on him. Here comes Michael to close up behind Michel Jourdain Jr. Tracy scores as the lead of the race, as Michael now looks for room. Max Pappas comes down on the end. Good drives today. We're going to show you some driving. We're at Michigan Speedway for the 20th running of the Michigan 500. It started just a few moments ago. 16 laps complete. I'm Paul Page with Parker Johnstone. Jan Beekes and Gary Gerald are in the pits in these 16 laps around the course. So unofficial counts, there have been 32 lead changes already, though it's been pretty stable at the line. There are the current standings. Juan Montoya is officially in the lead of the race, but he battles with Michael Andretti, who just got past him. But lap after lap, Montoya has been able to get back around Michael at the line. Michael was scored as the leader of lap number 17. We're on the 18th lap now.
All the way through the field, the action has been fast and furious. You can see Christian Fittipaldi trying to move up behind Kenny Brack there. These guys in this draft are approaching speeds of 250 miles an hour down this back straightaway. Watch how they use the draft to their advantage. There goes Michael Andretti on the high side of Juan Montoya. We're seeing these changes all the way back through the pack.
Montoya, this year's Indianapolis 500 champion, just behind him, last year's Indy 500 champion, Kenny Brack. Montoya goes to the inside of Michael Andretti. And once again, Montoya grabs the lead back. Kenny Brack now looks at an opportunity to go down low
onto the track to use for the racing line.
Elio Castroneves is on the move as well, from 18th on the restart up to 7th. Remember, he had a terrible pit stop right at the end of the run yesterday.
as I was saying, this is where the rain delay has really helped. Obviously, Michael Andretti, Kenny Breck was not happy with the handling of his car yesterday, and they have got that sorted out. But keep in mind, this is a whole new racetrack today. So it was anybody's best guess, and obviously the guys at Team Rahal have figured it out.
We mentioned Elio. There he is. Kenny Breck has moved up into second behind Jimmy Vasser. And Max Pappas has been working this lower line. He's running in 5th place. Rick DeBrule?
Just want to talk about Kenny Breck. He wasn't happy with the car yesterday, but it wasn't a big problem. They thought it was a minor problem. In fact, they didn't do any work on the car overnight like some.
Right now, the draft is broken up into several groups of cars. You can just see this big gaggle at the front with Ghibli, Pappas, Kanaan, Andretti, Breck, Jourdain, Franchitti from dead last, now up to 7th position. Cristiano D'Amata also making a nice recovery up to 10th spot as we ride along with him.
That's Carpentier just ahead, and here comes Jimmy Vasser.
Jimmy Vasser, the winner of the 1996 US $500 million payday.
Well, Jimmy Vasser is kind of slowly cruising his way toward the front, too. Jan?
And it's interesting that he is doing it in a pack of cars. Today he said he thought this race would be like the Tour de France, where you run in a pack called the peloton. He says, I want to run in the peloton. The idea is that's how the riders save energy in their legs. When you ride in the peloton here at the Michigan 500, you're not saving your leg power, you're saving fuel. So he hopes he can run in a pack and then have the big killer run at the end. He wants to be like Lance Armstrong.
That's what I talked about right from the beginning. You can't do this. You can't show all your cards at the beginning, use up everything you've got in the car so early. The guys will be on the radio saying, come on, you got to back off. You got to fall in line. And for drivers like Vasser, Herta, Ghibli, some of the others, they have enough experience and patience to lay back in this field. Paul Tracy, he wants to lead a lap.
Taking advantage back and forth of the draft, you're back with Gidley at 8th place.
And you can hear him lift there, Paul. Had a nice breathe at the engine. He knows that he's got to get to the last lap, so he's being very careful here. He could have drafted right by the car in front of him, but he chose not to do so.
Drafting here is, in fact, right now showing to be even more important than we anticipated. Joining us for the coverage is Scott Pruitt, who certainly knows how to run in the draft, and especially here. Scott, welcome.
Thanks, it's good to be here. Now the thing you got to remember, these guys are all starting with more downforce than what they plan on running at the end of the race. This is to give them a better car, more conservative car for what they're doing right now, this wheel-to-wheel racing. They're going to have more, a better balance. They're going to have a better feel for the car. As the race unfolds, they're going to start trimming these cars out. They're looking for the opportunity right now to get a feel of what they can do and what they can't do. So we'll see some changing in aero balance throughout this race.
Officially, Herta, Pappas, D'Amata are the only ones scored as leading the race. You can see D'Amata, as he came around, pulled well out. But again, it continues to seesaw back in the field. And now both Franchitti and Tracy are up in the front. Capable of winning here today. The leaders work around Shinji Nakano.
You heard one of the spotters' voices saying clear. They're an extra set of eyes for the drivers, letting them know if there's anyone behind, above, or below them.
We like that gear. We like that gear. We like the mileage. Looking good.
Here's a surprise. That's Roberto Moreno that the leaders just overhauled. Moreno, the points leader, by 2 points over Michael Andretti coming into this race.
The paddock yesterday to ask the drivers what it's like to do that sort of up and down shifting. Nobody knew exactly what it was going to be like or how they would attack the problem.
Well, nobody's experienced this before, so they're all doing it firsthand right now as you watch it.
Side by side on the backstretch, Andretti underneath Vasser. DeFerrin right there. Behind us, Richie Hearn, then Alonso Jr., who's dropped back to 5th. Adrian Fernandez, our pole sitter. Alex Zanardi running 7th. Then Scott Pruitt and Christian Fittipaldi. J.J. Leto, the highest running rookie, rounds out the top 10. Greg Moore, Bobby Rahal, Tony Kanaan, Art Meyer, Andre Ribeiro, Brian Herta, and Paul Tracy follow.
Alonso Jr. moving back into that position. That might have been a little strategy. Roger might have come on the radio, says, hey, Al, you can't run that pace all day long. We got 500 miles of racing. racing here.
You saw Jimmy Vasser going back and forth, weaving on the backstretch to try to break that toe. It didn't work. Andretti slices past. Then Vasser. And DeFerrin tucked into his toe. Fly by Michael Andretti. Richie Hearn in the Budweiser car for Della Penna Racing remains in 4th place. Like formation flying in fighter jets. Andretti and DeFerrin side by side now.
And Denny, to answer your question, Roger Penske did not tell Al Unser Jr. to slow down. Al has chosen to set a pace that he's comfortable with. He says that his car is pushing just a little bit, but that's how he wants it.
Lap speeds in the 221, 222 mile-an-hour range. Now Hearn closes up a little bit on Gilles DeFerrin. But he'll have to watch his mirrors as well because he has company from pole sitter Adrian Fernandez. We'll take a break and return to Michigan.
Caught up behind Gidley as he comes off there. Christian Fittipaldi comes just inside of Max Pappas. It's a battle for 4th. Now you're on board with Cristiano D'Amata. He's back behind Fittipaldi. And Christian still trying to work maps. Kenny Breck still the leader. Montoya still 2nd.
You know, we get immune to the speed after a while because the long shots slow the cars down a little bit, but look at the fence go by. Traveling at 370 feet a second down these long straightaways. Look up to the right side of your screen. It gives you an idea of the kind of velocity these guys are carrying around this track.
Max Pappas reaching down. He's done it twice on his steering wheel, the right side of the steering wheel, to make an adjustment. It's already by the backstretch. It has changed. Let's go down to Gary Gerald.
Paul, it's interesting from our standpoint. Remember yesterday in qualifying how the Honda team struggled one car by themselves on the racetrack, and all of their starters, I think, were from 11th or 12th back deep in the field. And yet here's Tracy, here's Castro Neves, here's Michael Andretti, all up here in this huge gaggle going into turn 1.
They come off a 4-3 wide. Pappas has joined them up at the front again. Gidley is still keeping in the fight. And look at Tony Kanaan driving for Morris Dunn Racing. He's up in the battle too.
And Gary, I think everybody was shocked, although a lot of teams didn't put an emphasis on qualifying. I think everybody was surprised to see that Shinji Nakano was the highest Honda qualifier in 12th. But Paul, I think now it's taken 14, 15 laps for everybody to settle down, get in a groove. You can see a lot of people, maybe not Tony Kanaan, are willing to run in line. The intensity has backed off just a little bit as they're now about halfway through this fuel run. They're starting to get a feel for how these chassis are working.
The winner of the Michigan 500.
All the teams are literally silent with 19, almost 20 laps into the record books.
You saw Richie Hearn's hand go down there and shift gears when he went into the corner. Wants to pull off here, get up in the toe. Jack, to add to your thing too, I also don't think they want to bother the driver. Look at that, down on the apron goes Richie Hearn.
Under P.J. Jones and Gilles DeFerrin.
Back to what I was saying, I don't want to, I think the teams don't want to bother their drivers when they're in there dicing like this.
Now the drivers have been warned about going down low underneath that white line or yellow in parts of the racetrack that defines the apron where the banking goes horizontal.
Now that
in order to crash, the leading driver simply has to cross in front of the trailing driver, disturbing the air over his car, taking away aerodynamic downforce. They can be 8-10 car lengths in front, cut up across the track, remove the air from that trailing driver, and create an accident. Back on board with Max Pappas. Paul, I started to mention some of the things we'll see them adjust. The fuel mapping, you'll see the weight jacker being adjusted. Also, you'll see them use the push-to-talk button to talk to their teams. Also, the anti-roll bars. They can adjust the front and rear anti-roll bars. So there's also boost control. So there are a lot of things that the drivers are doing while they're steering these cars around at up to 4 Gs around the high banks.
Now Max Pappas trying to get down inside of his teammate Kenny Breck. as back and forth. This battle within the top 10 continues to run. Christian Fittipaldi is still at the front, Gary Gerald.
Yeah, and the radio from the team is telling him they don't want him to lead so much. And apparently, we don't know. We can only assume it's because of the fuel conservation mode. If you're out there punching a hole through the air first, you're obviously going to use more fuel, more horsepower. If you get back in the draft, you can just kind of feather that throttle along. And I'm sure Parker can relate to that with all the laps that he's run at speed at this place over the year.
Montoya's led the most laps to this point, but it's still a pretty good fight. 5 different guys have been in front.
And Gary, that's exactly right. It not only conserves fuel, but it helps take some of the stress off the engine. These cars turn 15,500 plus during the course of the race. They try to breathe the... He wants to win this race, take the $1 million. The Farron obviously is just focused on the championship. Kenny Breck, though, has to get by Cash Nevis to lead the most laps to get that valuable point if he wants to take the championship.
Rick DeBrule.
Just want to give you some information on Kenny Breck. He's actually flying blind out there. The dash isn't working. He's not getting information on the dash. The very beginning of the race, they were trying to fix it. Finally, he said, guys, just talk me through this. So right now, he's getting the information from the pits to keep him updated.
From a driver's perspective, that's a little unnerving when the telemetry goes down, when the dash goes down, but on a super speedway, it's probably the best place for it to happen. You know that you're only going to use one of the 2 top gears. You know that you have to go up into 6. The only problem is fuel, but as long as they've got radio communication, the pits can keep them updated at all times. And actually, in some ways, it's a blessing in disguise because then you're not distracted by any of the shift lights or any of the instrumentation.
Kenny Breck takes the lead back, and then Castroneves takes it back again. Battle continues to seesaw at the front. We're going to give somebody in the broadcast booth the unenviable task of trying to figure out what the lead changes away from the line are. Officially, they only count at the start-finish line, but remember at Michigan, we had over 160 lead changes around the track. And Castroneves again.
But significantly, as they crossed the start-finish stripe, Breck was in the lead, even though Castroneves came back. That's all Kenny cares about. If he can keep slingshotting, coming down into 3 and holding the lead, and he does it once again, that's all he cares about. It's helping his fuel economy. It's letting his engine breathe a little bit. Castroneves is actually helping Kenny Breck at this point. Now, at the front, Kenny Breck's probably getting around 2+ miles per gallon. There, he's led another lap, which is exactly what he cares about. He'll let Castroneves go.
We got 2 Red Warriors coming in there. Vassar and Montoya closing.
What it's going to tell you is if you go 2-3 cars back, all of a sudden the mileage jumps 10% or more. These guys are back at 2.2, 2.3. It makes a huge difference when you start looking down the road in 400. Plenty of room, plenty of air, plenty of side-by-side racing. Look how high Gidley could go in relation to Max.
The Michigan 500 presented by Toyota. We've had 7 different leaders, 29 lead changes, but those are counted at the line. We're approaching 80 now on the number of changes away from the line. Paul Page with Parker Johnstone, Gary Gerald, Jan Beekes, Scott Pruitt all with us. 78 different lead changes away from the line. We've been following Michael Andretti, looking for a 3rd win. He's 13th, but he's still very much in the fight. Kenny Breck looking pretty strong. Whoa! That's little Tony Kanaan. Hi, Tony. How you doing? Those are the stories that we're following today. And a number of others. We've only had 1 caution period, and that for debris. Only 2 cars out. Jill DeFerrin and Adrian Fernandez.
You could listen that time from the onboard how Kenny had to breathe the throttle right at the exit as he crossed the weight of Max Pappas and Mimo Gidley. The leader gets a bit of an advantage mid-corner, running in clean air, but as they come onto the straights, you can see the person trailing draft right up, pulls straight out. Max dives right back down.
Use your head.
Kenny moves out wide.
That's why the spotters are so critical. You can hear him calling to the drivers. You'll hear him say clear, traffic left. So that the temp pegs and overheats the engine, you have to stop.
So the lead changes lap after lap after lap. Look down from the Honda Helicam. 57 laps of the 250 scheduled here. It's 2.2 seconds from 1st back to 9th. Fully a 1/3 of the field. Well, the Michigan 500 settles down, but only just a bit. All of the drivers say the real trick here is to get to the 500th mile, but they're battling all the way thus far. The rest of the field now encountering Dennis Vitolo, and they split Kanaan to the inside. Cristiano D'Amata lined up right now behind Paul Tracy. Kanaan comes around, slides low, takes the position.
And you would think at this stage in the race, you'd want to remain conservative, try to get the car towards at least the first pit stop. See, the problem here is, Paul, is when you're taking these kinds of chances in traffic, the risks of having an incident go way, way up, as we saw there with Tracy and Max Pappas nearly locking wheels.
Tracy and Pappas battle, and he begins now. Pappas has to give way to Tracy. Al Unser Jr. at the back of this fight now works on Kanaan, and there may be some good news now in the Hogan pits.
Well, actually, Paul, it's not good news. Castro Neves is back in. They suspect, according to the Mercedes-Benz folks that have the power plant, that there may be a problem in the wiring harness leading to the pop-off valve. So they've got the bodywork off. Repairs continue. It was no better when they changed valves and he went out for the one lap.
How frustrating can that engine compartment be for a team that has performed?
So that they're literally trying to save battery, save conversation, and Zanardi radios in and says, "But Chip, I'm lonely," as he begins to mount an assault on his teammate in Jimmy Vasser. But one of the things that probably makes Zanardi lonely today is his wife Daniela is just recently released from the hospital after experiencing some...
I'm much better than my car right now.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Only 37 days since that injury. The arm feels great.
Nothing like being a 25-year-old superhero to come back from multiple fractures in only 37 days.
There is Christian making his move down low. Montoya tries to make it as they all come around Shinji Nakano. And Tarso Marquez just ahead of them now. The leader, Michael Andretti, works around Tarso. And now here comes Kenny Breckpath.
We're expecting pit stops here. You watch Max Pappas, I think of two things. The disappointment when he ran out of fuel at Michigan within sight of the checkered flag, and his first victory this year. Jubilation for Max and the entire Team Rahal crew as he won that opening race at Homestead, but it's been a very disappointing season for Max. He said he'd like to have a perfect win here to bookend his season.
Back behind Montoya, Andretti, Castroneves, and now Tony Kanaan sticks his nose into the fight. Christian Fittipaldi is also there. Rick DeBrule.
Just want to mention, we mentioned the fact that Kenny Breck was having problems with his dash. He's also having bigger telemetry problems now.
Agenda out there, their own strategy, and they're all playing out. They started out at a furious pace. I think everybody had to settle down to keep from wearing themselves out. I know I was pretty worn out up here in the booth just talking about it.
But fellas, consider this. It is no Sunday walk in the park. For a fellow like Greg Moore, he actually had to wait until the pit sequence kicked in so he could come onto the pits, not only to take on fuel, but to replace the visor on his helmet, taped it shut. It seems some of the padding around his head has vibrated loose, and they were trying to stabilize his head for better vision.
Alex Zanardi on the right, his teammate Jimmy Vasser on the left. A week ago in Toronto, Zanardi said, "I have never had a tougher time passing anyone than my teammate that day." Right now, Zanardi looks ahead to his teammate, Greg Moore, right behind. This is 4th, 5th, and 6th.
You have to remember, in an open cockpit car like this, that disturbed air that comes back and gives that big draft, it also tumbles into the cockpit and can really toss your head around in there. They wear little gadgets over the top of the head, little whippers, if you like, to keep their head down in the car. All the helmets are designed different for aerodynamic flow because they can really play havoc on your neck.
And Danny, Greg Moore is one of those guys that was very concerned about running in traffic before this race. He said, "I really am worried about guys cutting in front of me and taking away my air." But the way he's running right now, he seems to have found a comfort level.
And as you saw from our race notes there at the upper left of your screen, being a racing champion does have its perks. Al Unser Jr. is making a pit stop right now. This is on lap number 62. As you watch Greg Moore up high, continuing to move forward. From British Columbia in Western Canada. His home race will come up later this year when we visit the streets of Vancouver. Going around, Robbie Gordon in the Panasonic-sponsored Toyota-powered Reynard.
It's a big show right here. It tells me that these guys not only are great athletes driving the car in this kind of conditions with 225, 227 mile-an-hour speeds, wheel to wheel with everybody, but the condition that they have to be in for 3.5 hours of racing like this is tremendous. Let's not forget, in the corners, they're pulling 4.5 negative G's on the body. That's a tremendous load, and they're getting around a lap in 32 seconds. So that's twice every 32 seconds they're pulling that kind of load.
On the backstretch, Dennis Vitolo on the left. Richie Hearn looking for some place to go. He has drivers down low and up high. Now they string out once again.
And Bob, the reason that Allenser Jr. came onto pit road, he had handling difficulties, and they put a smaller wicker on the back of the car. That means he had a big push. Roger Penske felt they needed to change it right away.
The race is barely third.
He's not. He's actually on the cell phone at the time we said that. He, of course, serves as the interim president for CART. And as long as he's interim, he can still be involved. But he's been very, very careful not to give any appearance whatsoever of conflict of interest. Would he decide to take the job, well, then I think that's a whole different situation.
And he watches his two cars battle for the lead, with Kenny Brett now leading in front of Max Pappas. And from that onboard shot we had of Max, you could see the rookie stripes on back of the 1999 Indy 500 winner's car.
Castroneves works high, Breck works down low. Jan Beekes.
Kenny Breck now leading. The team is actually frustrated because they told him during the break, we don't want you to lead, we want you to follow. We want to save some fuel. Normally they're cheering when a guy takes the lead. Not in this case. They want him to hang back and save some of that precious fuel.
Yeah, just in the time we were able to get it to you, Jan. Kenny Breck dropped back into second, as you see, as they flash across the line. Gary Gerald.
For Michael Andretti, a quick update. They thought that he was losing tire pressure.
And left the pits with Fernandez suffering badly, and Jimmy Vasser comes up with a very, very nice stop that puts him in third and has him cruising where he should be. And Tony Kanaan came in ninth and came out in sixth.
What a great track Michigan is, Paul. You can see they're running down low. They're in the middle. We've seen a few cars like Paul Tracy taking the high groove all the way around. It's the only track in the world where you can do this. And the guys with the experience have set their cars up to be able to run not only by themselves, but also in traffic, take full advantage of the tow. And now look at as Al Unser Jr. goes around the high side of Adrian Fernandez. This is where the trust element really comes into play.
Well, Tony Kanaan got Fernandez in what looked like a quite easy pass, moves into fifth, and now Al Unser Jr. begins to work on him. Let's go pit side once again, Gary.
And here we go once again. Alex Barron leads them down. Moreno's actually the leader of the race, and he's going to run in traffic. You see that? About 5 wide going into one. Whoa!
Montoya down low, Castroneves up high.
And within this battle, what you've got to keep in mind is Moreno is the leader there, and his teammate's sitting a little bit back, but Montoya is in attack mode right now. And they are overcoming some of the slower cars in the field, putting right now Alex Barron a lap down. Rick DeBrule.
Well, the best laid plans of mice and men, the idea was that Roberto Moreno would be the rabbit, that Fernandez would tuck in behind him and they'd take off. Guess what didn't happen? But I tell you, the Patrick guys are really excited. They feel this is played perfectly in their hands. Remember, they made the stop just before this yellow. As a result, it moved them up in the field right where they want to be.
And Alex Barron's hanging in there pretty good. Nice run for Alex. Remember, he was pretty close to a great finish at Surfers Paradise. I wanted you to see where they went 5 wide at one point. Oh, yeah, I wanted to be part of that. Okay, I'll give you a 4.
Within government tolerance. Interesting thing has happened here, though, as Montoya has started to drop back. I think now, remember, he went 3 laps farther than the lead group on that first set of green stops. Montoya obviously went right to the front. He's come back a little bit. He's letting Castroneves and Alex Barron and Moreno.
Pace comes up for Montoya.
Great.
D'Amata looks slow. A look way down. Max Pappas takes it all the way down below the line, while at the same time Tracy comes around the outside.
The spotter stand for the drivers is located about 100 feet away from our booth, and as they did that, I saw numerous hands go up there. They were covering their eyes, watching them go down into turn one.
Paul Tracy, who started on the pole, then fell back to 14, now works his way up in the front. Castroneves is at the front of the field. Tracy, then Pappas. Tracy moves on the leader. Paul Tracy, who has never won a 500-miler, finished third here last year. On the podium last week at Toronto.
Established a new track record in qualifying, besting Jimmy Vasser's effort from 1996 at 234.9 miles an hour. Had early handling problems, but during the course of those pit stops has now got the car working very well.
Montoya now comes up around D'Amata into fourth. Nakano has reported a problem. He's been dropping further and further back.
But I don't like that too much. Just drop back when you can.
Barry Green talking to Paul Tracy. I was about to say this is a cat and mouse game. Do you really want to lead? I think now the drivers are just seeing how their cars are out front. And you can hear why this is so stressful on the engines. They are nearly full throttle the entire time. 16,000 plus RPMs. The other problem you've got here, Paul, is all this superheated air from the cars that you're following is then vented into your side. Whoa! Wow, lift off the throttle there. Yike.
Coming inside.
Just over the 250th lap.
Clear.
Halfway point. 250th mile, halfway point.
But that air is heated. Can cause the engine temps, the oil temps to rise higher than you normally would. That's why some of these guys are fighting to get to the front, but always looking for clean air, not only to get out of the turbulence, but to run in cooler air, and that's a relative. The road courses, the street courses, the short ovals, and now the super speedways.
Look at this fight back in the field as Adrian Fernandez looks for room to race alongside Vasser. At the same time, look at Pruitt up there. Pruitt's trying to close in here as well. And now D'Amata. D'Amata starts to make the move. That's Franchitti just ahead of D'Amata that comes up high on Pruitt. Comes around Pruitt. Here comes Cristiano D'Amata.
And that's Richie Hearn right at the tail end of that group. And what's so surprising here is how strong the Toyotas are running. Michigan is a horsepower track. They've made tremendous improvements. These three Toyotas battling now for 9th, 10th, and 11th place.
Jimmy Vasser under attack now from Cristiano D'Amata. Franchitti up just ahead of him. Tracy just ahead of Franchitti. Look at that. Wow, when you can put Jimmy Vasser down that quickly, that's a pretty good move for D'Amata. Out the back of Cristiano's car, Jimmy Vasser in pursuit now. Montoya maintains the lead. Dennis Vitolo on the pit road. Christian Fittipaldi now moves low on Hearn in traffic. Here comes Alex Barron. Out the back of Richie Hearn's car. Look at Barron. They come three wide. They split Fittipaldi. And Barron comes around, moves up. Let's go to Jan Vikas.
Well, more information on Mauricio Gugelmin. What happened was we saw him run through that debris. A piece of debris must have come in and damaged the oil cooler, because they've now looked at the telemetry. The oil temperature went up, and then the oil pressure went down, causing the engine to blow.
Michael Andretti, Gilles de Ferran, Alonso Jr., Paul Tracy, and Bobby Rahal rounding out the top 10. Target teammates running close together. Jimmy Vasser and Alex Zanardi in third and fourth. Vasser goes up high to go around his teammate. There's Zanardi's view.
Just hear Zanardi pedaling out of the throttle just a little bit, breathing the...
Carpentier ahead of D'Amato.
One of the things we might see is watch the top of Cristiano D'Amato's steering wheel. There's a set of LED lights across the top right there, and those will start to light up if he gets close to the red line of the engine, heading down into turns 1 and turns 3. Right now, though, it looks like Cristiano's they'll run 3 top gears, 4th, 5th, and 6th, depending on traffic, depending on top speed. It looks like Cristiano's in top gear right now, because usually you'll just start to see those LEDs start to illuminate. We didn't see any, which means he's being very conservative with revs right now.
Michael Andretti back up doing battle with the leader. He had it for a moment. Castroneves came around to the outside. Castroneves has it right now. Carpentier, his team did a good job the last pit stop.
And we just received a radio transmission going to Patrick. There's a lot of coaching that goes on, a lot of encouragement. They told him, hey, buddy, you're doing a great job. Maybe you should think about doing this for a living.
Carpentier's crew, a long stop, dropped him back to 9th. He came back up here to the front. Now runs in 4th as we look down from the Honda Helicam. Castroneves and
their 7-speed to the backup car. He said, we're at the back of the field, so it's just like Michigan, and hey, we won there, but it doesn't look like things are going quite so well for them this weekend.
Now, just so you understand, this is not the 405 freeway. This is Fontana, California Speedway, and the Kart FedEx Championship Series. They have been running nose to tail now for 20 laps. At the moment, and only for a few seconds it appears, Helio Castroneves is the leader. Tony Kanaan right behind him. Paul Tracy there. It has been a tight battle in front of a great crowd right from the green flag.
And as we look back, sort of the pack that's Franchitti, D'Amato now, DeFerrin, Breck, Andretti, Vassar, even Tagliani, I think these guys are comfortable just to sit here. Listen how early Cristiano backed out of the throttle and continues to back out on corner entry. So he's found a nice place to run. The only thing you don't want to do is lose contact with the lead group, because it would be just absolutely devastating to go a lap down. You can get it back. You just want to keep contact, though, with this lead group, but be very, very easy on the engine. You notice he's not shifting. He's not putting any strain on the gearbox. He's found a nice placeable place in which to run, a nice pace to run.
Back up at the front, Montoya has to give way to Michael once again. No, Michael's going to have to pin it down on the inside, see if Montoya will in fact give way.
And every time I see this, it reminds me of Motegi earlier in the year, but it looks like these two have learned to play well together. You can see them giving each other room, but not a lot.
Michael looks to the inside. Jan Bikas, you're watching Max Pappas.
Yes, and of course the Team Rahal crew also wanted to see him go up there and lead for the first time, so they told him, go ahead and use the button. If you need to get a run on somebody, you're welcome to use the button. Use more fuel, more RPM. Right now, it's put him in the lead.
Well, Michael and Juan are going to continue their battle, though this time for second place. The battle is about a second, 1.3 seconds behind Max Pappas, the new leader of the race. I don't believe it. They just keep going at it, lap after lap. Again, the two contrasting power plants, Ford for Michael, Honda for Montoya. Montoya back looks at the inside. Continuing fight for second place as they come around Brian Herta, who's a lap behind the lead in 16th place. Max Pappas leads for the first time in his career out in front of the US 500 with 87 laps complete.
They've certainly had their problems on the road courses, including a couple of heavy crashes in our last two races at Cleveland and Toronto. And here comes JJ down low. He's going to pass them all. And we have a yellow flag. Yellow from...
This is what we saw a lot of at Michigan, right here.
And what happened there, Blundell, we saw him leading. When he pitted, he had lost enough track position. He was leading because he gotten, they went a much further than Greg Moore did on fuel, but ended up getting caught just a lap down. Mo Gugelman just barely stayed on the lead lap, got to go all the way around to the back. Now he's trying to get it back.
Jules DeFerrin also in a fight there. DeFerrin in 9th place right now. And you see two lines right there in the corners. Greg Moore continues to flash around. His last lap, 234 miles an hour. Mark Blundell, Scott Pruitt, Gilles de Ferran, and Bobby Rahal running 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th in a battle of their own. They are all a lap down, but that is for position among themselves.
And of course, back in the pack a little bit is Dario Franchitti, who is in second place, and just a little further behind him is Jimmy Vasser in third. And of course, that is a special battle because that's for second place in the championship.
Brief look from Scott Pruitt's cockpit. Scott's annual Celebrity Golf Classic back in September raised some $70,000 for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. On board once again with Scott in the Vistion car. Notice the lack of movement in the steering wheel. Whoa, 3 wide through the tri-oval area across the start-finish line. Not really a tri-oval, a D-shaped oval we call it. Long back straightaway, and then a long curve from turn 3 all the way to the exit from turn 2.
Bob, watch carefully the steering wheel for Scott Pruitt. They say that he has a bit of push. So generally that means you'll see him turn the steering wheel a little bit more than you would do normally. The car was loose early on, and then they ended up taking too much front wing out. Now the car doesn't stick in the front the way he wants.
Well, let me tell you, it stuck the way he wanted right there. He just dove right down into the front of this pack and pulled away a little bit through turns 1 and 2.
That's kind of thing. I mean, the push, like I said, is not optimal, but if you have, in a long race for qualifying, you've mentioned that the fastest way is a little loose. I wouldn't want to fight a loose car for 500 miles. The push isn't optimal, but you saw he's able to work with it when smoking right around Greg Moore, and now he's hoping for a caution.
Past the 100 lap mark in this 250 lap, 500-mile race with $1 million waiting in victory.
On the pit in and out, Tony Kanaan did not pit. Pitted last on lap 79 for a Wicker. Speaking of Wicker, it looks like Montoya may have in fact pulled there.
And of all the drivers that can handle a car going neutral to loose on a super speedway, it would be Montoya. That car must have really been understeering a lot for them to make a front wing change.
And reiterating that as we watch from Memo Gidley's position back in 6th. A lot of cars, you may not have seen all of them, but a lot of cars came in toward the end of the yellow just to top off the fuel tanks.
They've obviously had a chat with Memo, running now much more conservatively. You could hear him back out of the throttle. This yellow gave the drivers a chance to settle down, except some of these guys, like Paul Tracy, just have to go to the front because once a racer, always a racer. I don't think there's a big enough stick to get him to slow down.
Now with D'Amata.
And listen to him back out of the throttle here.
That's Franchitti just ahead. Pappas the leader ahead of Franchitti.
Yeah, but you could see what happened. The car was on rails, tracking very well. He had Gidley go down low. You could see all the movement in his hands as the car started to get away from him a little bit. And then, as he had to back off the throttle, everyone else split him. It was even in more turbulence.
His mirror fell off or his spotter fell asleep, I don't know. But it was unfortunate. He's racing. It happens. But we have to go on to the next one.
All right, we're going back to green. Thank you, Kenny.
And remember, it's been some time since that accident. As we go back to green flag racing in, so Kenny has had a considerable time to calm down. Here is Paul Tracy as on the restart. He moves to the lead, getting around Montoya. Montoya drops into second, Castroneves to third. Then Michael, then Christian Fittipaldi. Franchitti moves way, way low on Fittipaldi, while at the same time Pappas goes high. Michael down inside Castroneves. Carpentier tries a move down below the white line, trying to move on Fittipaldi. Again, Fittipaldi with a lot of damage on the right side of that car as a result of the contact with Kenny Breck, but it hasn't seemed to slow him down that much at all. Carpentier
Talk championship, Kenny Breck has got to get to the front. He's got to lead the most laps to pick up that valuable extra point and then go on to win this race. If he wants to take that championship from DeFerrin, DeFerrin needs some help, or he needs help from his friends to make sure DeFerrin is well behind him.
So Kenny Breck plays it very carefully with his teammate, the leader of the race, Pappas, and it cost him a little in momentum. He drops back into third place.
Remember, Kenny Breck's probably just a little gun shy because he was squeezed into the wall coming off of turn 2 at Michigan when he had that contact with Christian Fittipaldi. He wants to make sure that he gives himself a little extra room and make sure. Wow, look at this. It shows you how the Handford device plays here. You get a run, you pop out, you start to go by. The other guy then picks up a bit of the toe, and he comes right back by you.
Honda Helicam tracking the front 3 in the race. Pappas, Castroneves, and Breck. Breck inches up there and then drops back.
But from what I'm seeing right now, it looks like Pappas has got the stronger car because Castroneves should easily be able to draft up and pass Max. We can see Castroneves once again, Elio up on the high side. Kenny Breck losing some of that draft. It's 10, 12, 13 car lengths back, just like getting back behind a tractor trailer rig going down the freeway. And here, finally, Kenny gets hooked up, but he's unable to take that advantage of that draft to make a move past these front 2.
Remember, too, in Kenny Breck's scenario for a championship, he needs to lead the most laps. And this kind of run is costing him dearly. Jan?
Well, you're talking about Castroneves and that high line.
And now we understand that a black flag will come out for Jimmy Vasser, currently shown in 11th place. So a violation for Vasser means the officials will call him in, and that will be costly as they come around across the start-finish line, and Greg Moore goes high above race leader Richie Hearn. A Swift chassis with Ford power and Firestone tires against the similarly shod Reynard Mercedes-Benz of Moore.
Those two guys certainly don't look like they're conserving fuel running like that.
Moore takes over the lead again. There is Richie Hearn's view. If any of the 3 Swift make that 2 Swift chassis still in the field, Michael Andretti and Richie Hearn, with Christian Fittipaldi having already retired, it would be the first time in nearly 2 decades that an American-made Champ Car chassis. What am I talking about?
Neves, and Castroneves has been getting away with some incredibly high lines here. Look at that.
That's one of the changes we've seen at this track over the years. A lot of people said, oh, it's almost a mirror of Michigan. Well, it's not. It was a very narrow line for the first few years, but with all the races they've had here, this line's gotten wider and wider, and now the drivers are able to run low, middle, or high.
Gary Gerald, Elio Castroneves came to second, now being challenged again by Pappas.
Part of the learning curve for young race drivers is absorbing something from one year, carrying it forward to the next. Last year at this track, Elio Castroneves learned that that high line can be very, very fast. And we had us wondering early on if the car was loose, but no, it's just a fact.
Back in the battle for second place. Here comes Michael. Carpentier and Jones just trying to stay away from this battle for the lead and get back on the lap. They are both well off the lead of the race, and they're flying now. Here comes Michael back through with them. And finally, Tony Kanaan pits.
There's a good example of the uniqueness of Michigan. You could see those 3 cars running low, medium, and high, and you could see as Michael pulled out there, he nearly got into the front of Carpentier. Now watch Carpentier drop back because he took the air off his car there. It won't be until he gets out the exit and through start-finish he'll be able to get a run back on these front 2.
Sure, that's the wisest strategy. While we were away, we want to show you what happened to Max Pappas, because he got in the middle of this.
You hear drivers lift in the middle of the straightaway. Paul, I think this man, Max Pappas, feels that this track owes him. He's playing a very intelligent, very mature game of staying back, staying out of the lead. I think he's got a great car underneath him. I think the Rahal Racing crew has given him exactly what he needs to sprint those last few laps, and I think he's just being patient and coy right now.
Castro-Neves, the gap is narrowed down a little bit, 1.7 miles, or 1.7 seconds from the leader. Back to second place, Andretti. Gary.
And I wish them all the best, and look forward to my future as well.
Thank you, Kenny. Thanks.
And on the 71st lap, Michel Jourdain Jr. came in, topped off fuel. What looked to be a routine stop. While he did that, Jimmy Vasser joined the list of leaders and then fell back. Max Pappas still officially being scored in the lead.
Well, we talk about an off-season, but for Kenny Breck and Jimmy Vasser, Kenny going to Target Chip Ganassi, Vasser going to Team Rahal, their off-season will consist of a two-week break, which is mandatory under blackout under kart rules, and they're immediately starting their PR stints as well as winter testing.
Now officially, Jimmy Vasser is posted now as the 8th leader of the race. 21 different official lead changes in 73 laps.
And I'm a little...
Green coming up. Thank you, Gary. So the Flying Finn will hop onto his motorcycle and head back home. Season's done for him, but the green flag waves. The crowd comes to its feet again, and Mauricio Gugelmin leads the top 7 cars, nose to tail across the start-finish line, and they fan out immediately in a bid for position. Michael Andretti down low, Paul Tracy up high. Look at that run to second.
And Greg Moore just got snookered by all of them. Paul Tracy was up so high, he's had dust coming up when he entered turn 1.
So Mauricio Gugelmin, who dealt a dose of see you later to Greg Moore on our previous restart, gets a taste of his own medicine. You're on board with Michael Andretti. The order is Tracy, Andretti, Gugelmin. Now recall what happened in
that battle. Here comes Franchitti. He runs 6.
Well, we saw Castro-Neves earlier make the right move to get around Christian Fittipaldi. So if he doesn't time the pass right, the next strategic move is to use a pick, which is what he's hoping for here, to use lapsed traffic to his advantage.
They come around Hattori and Blundell. Pick doesn't work. Franchitti made a move high as Max Pappas moved low on Michael Andretti, and Franchitti picked up the lead of the race. Pappas dropped into second. Now Michael Andretti trying to grab the lead back and still has to stay in third, but Pappas comes forward on Franchitti. Here comes Montoya. Top 4 battle together. They go 3 wide into 1. Franchitti takes the high line. Here comes Montoya moving on Michael. Oh, Montoya and Michael are at it again. This time it's a battle for third. Pappas comes inside Franchitti trying to pick up the lead.
And look at Montoya trying to decide which person he wants to follow through the corner. He finally decides to go low. On the last lap of the race with this group, Paul, I don't think you'd want to be leading it until you got to the checkered. I think with 1 lap to go, you'd want to be sitting right where Dario is so you can use that draft and get out. But do you do it in turns 1 and 2 or 3 and 4 like Pruitt did on Allenser Jr. just a few years ago? That is the million-dollar question here.
As they come to the backside, let's just check out the different lines, watching from overhead. Pappas pushes past Franchitti. Michael comes past Montoya. Through 3 into 4, off of 4.
Look at the draft Montoya's got coming back up on Michael. And when he pulls out, then the brakes get put back on. And then look at Michael back on the outside.
Pappas back on Franchitti. Michael breaks off from Montoya, joins the leaders. Picks up the toe from Pappas. Comes high again. In turn 1, takes the lead again.
Let's try mixture 6 if you're comfortable with that.
Barry Green talking to Dario Franchitti. Looks like they're trying to conserve just a little bit of fuel to see if he can hang on to the lead, reducing the horsepower just a little bit to try to extend that next fuel stop.
Franchitti once again, this time low in one.
Not at all happy about Greg Moore. I shouldn't say not happy, but they are in a fuel conservation mode. They want to complete this race with only 3 more stops. And they said, you know, this dicing back and forth, unless, and he brought up this point, the drafting is helping them conserve a little bit of fuel.
Well, Jack, he's out in the front, so he's not getting much drafting right now. He's creating the draft, and Michael Andretti is working his way back to the front.
17 visits to this racetrack. Michael Andretti has finished just 12 times. The record here is not a cause for confidence. But he has victories and other podium finishes in those other 5 finishes here, so it's been pretty much win or nothing for Michael Andretti in Michigan. As he slots up behind DeFerrin. Well, that was close.
Jill DeFerrin, you can hear him lift off there, just breathing the car. Giving that engine a little bit of rest, and obviously the car's not working where he can run flat out through that corner. Michael says, okay, I tried high, I'll go down low. Works for me. Pulls up. Jill DeFerrin says, hey, thanks for the tow. I'm going to try the outside this time. What this does do with this dicing back and forth between these guys, it lets Greg Moore and Richie Hearn stretch it out a little bit. See them at the bottom of your screen, blue and red, right there, just out of your, went out of sight.
Going around the lap car of Michel Jourdain Jr., who was very despondent.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Right now we have a green flag waving, and Michael Andretti leads Jimmy Vasser, Greg Moore, Mauricio Gugelmin, Richie Hearn, and Paul Tracy as the top 5 are on a breakaway. Make that the top 6.
And you saw Jimmy Vasser try to dive down on the inside of Michael. Michael just kind of leaned down on him a little bit. I'm not having any of that. Not on the restart.
Same thing we said early, first few laps, we said, well, Jimmy's just going to search it out, but Jimmy also has a nose for when. Oh, look at those guys.
Side by side.
That is Paul Tracy and Mauricio Gugelmin. Paul Tracy around the outside. Obviously, that wicker change did not affect his car to the negative. That was a very good move.
Well, interesting, you know, you have 2 options. If the car is pushing, you can either take wing out of the back or add it to the front. We heard about the discussion between Alex and Mo Nunn. Mo felt adamant adding was the right way. Paul Tracy and Team Cool Green thinks the other way is the answer.
But you have to know what their overall wing package is to make that decision. That's the tough part.
This time
we sit up here and speculate.
Excuse me, Danny. This time by, there will be 100 laps remaining in the 500. 100 laps till one of these drivers picks up $1 million. Jimmy Vasser making a bid for the lead. Goes high around Michael Andretti. And what a slingshot. Look at the gap he has opened up over Andretti, who will have Greg Moore's attention as you see Moore going down inside Andretti. That's for second place, and they are not alone. Moore takes it.
Michael wanted to stay on the power there. I don't think he felt his car was handling well enough. He backed off just a little bit, slipped right in there behind Greg, and he's going back underneath him into turn 1.
You hear about sprint car drivers stuffing it down on the inside. You don't hear about it a lot at 230 miles an hour, but that's about exactly what that looked like. Michael said, I'm not going to leave you any more than 1 car with. Greg Moore said, that's all I need.
But you saw what Michael did, very professional, showed his experience. He just eased out of it enough just to let Moore by, slotted right in behind him, was back on the power, and passed him going into turn 1.
Looks like Paul Tracy closing up on Greg Moore there, fellow Canadian.
Breck drops to 3rd. Blundell closes in. I wonder if that is rivalry or team strategy there.
Well, I think what happened is that Kenny just gave a great tow to both Max Pappas and Juan Montoya, and they slingshotted by and left Kenny for dead coming off the second corner. Mark wasn't able to use that momentum to his advantage, and now everything is sort of stabilized. We can see Cash Nevis once again on the high side. That car working so well up there that I think Kenny was just taking advantage of. He's got to feel cheap and dirty at this point.
Well, Scott Remke down at Rahal Pits runs that car for Kenny Breck, does the strategy, and I bet the cogs and wheels are spinning in his mind trying to figure out what to do here. Sitting back there is Mark Blundell, currently 5th. Jan Bikas?
Yeah, great run for Mark Blundell, and consider that yesterday he thought his day was done. He was walking down the pit road shaking people's hands as though that was his last time in the car. But because of the overnight red flag, they found a way to fix what they perceived to be an oil leak, and now he gets a second shot at it. And considering he shot through that debris without damage, maybe this will be his lucky day.
Oh, man, the whole thing changes again as Breck comes to the front with Catherine Evans coming into second place.
And keep in mind, we've got the powerhouses of engine manufacturers at the front with Ford, Toyota, and Honda. Mark Blundell with Mercedes that has struggled all year long. Here, horsepower is extremely important. In order for Mark to stay at the front, he's got to trim his car out in order to get some of the drag, give away some downforce in order to match top speeds, which means he's hanging on in comparison to everyone else. This is a great run from Mark Blundell.
You know, Mark Blundell, Roberto Moreno, Jill DeFerrin, a whole group of them were at Rose's restaurant last night, carbo loading on the pasta there. But Mark looked particularly relaxed as he was talking with his longtime friend and neighbor in Scottsdale, Arizona, their Harley collection. So they were just nice and easy, and it's paying off here today. Boy, look at it. They split the leader again, and Blundell is in this fight. Again, Breck is a guy that's got a problem.
Champion not only in racing, but also a champion in life. And we will always be big fans of Alex Zanardi, and we look forward to seeing him back in our presence again.
Teammates Fittipaldi and D'Amata down low. Casey Meir is making a nice move. Allenser Jr. in and out of the pits. Are out yet, Jan?
Yes, he is gone, and the reason was the car got extremely loose, and they had to put the rear wicker back in.
Temperatures continue to climb here today. That makes the cars loose. Need for the wicker bill, that little trim edge at the back of the rear wing. Well, this is what we had hoped for. We're getting it. Michael Andretti and Juan Montoya put on a show at the start of the race. Finally, Max Pappas was able to come up, get into this battle, take the lead of the race, the first time of his career. Last week's winner, Dario Franchitti, after the last round of pit stops, comes up to this front battle as well. And Michael Andretti takes the lead of the race. I had to tell you, we've got a statistician that's pulling his hair out, just trying to keep track of the lead changes. Pappas again.
His car goes loose when he's in traffic. He loves the car when he's on his own, but at the back of the car wants to step out when he gets behind another car.
Halfway point of the race on board with Alex Zanardi. Ryan Herta uphill.
And of course, that guy slipping back there in third spot, that bright red and white car, is Al Unser Jr. He was up there at the front early in the race, kind of backed off a little bit, settled down, and look what he's doing right now.
He runs in third place. Tracy DeFerrin, Unser Jr., Alex Zanardi is fourth, Brian Herta now fifth, and Michael Andretti, Bobby Rahal, Adrian Fernandez, Greg Moore, and Jimmy Vasser. Vasser trying to make up for that drive-through penalty and not getting back into line at the right time. Now Tracy down low. What a horrible weekend a week ago on the streets of Toronto at Exhibition Plays for the Cool team. Dario Franchitti dominated the race, led 76 of the first 78 laps. But with a handful of laps to go, he fell victim to fading brakes. He spun. A handful of cars dove left and right to avoid him, and the one car who could not was his teammate Paul Tracy. Both cars out of the race in the late going. As you look at Al Unser Jr. trying to hoist himself to the front, end a long victory drought for himself, and pick up his car owner Roger Penske's 100th career win.
And remember that he had a big push at the beginning of the race, and they've been able to add front wing to Alonso Jr. He's now much happier with the car.
2 by 2 they battle. DeFerrin momentarily in the lead over Tracy. Behind them, Unser Jr. and Zanardi. Behind them, Andretti and Rahal. Now check that Scott Pruitt, who is a lap down.
And when you talk about Rahal, remember, he went for the new tires. Richie Hearn did not. And it appears as though the boss had the better decision. The used tires for Hearn are not helping.
Okay, be careful. Now let's look at Alonso Jr. when he goes in here. If you can look at the back of his car, right in that area, smoke coming off of that tire. Looked like on the inside of the tire, it could be the same gremlin that hit Andre Ribeiro. Keep an eye on that one.
His teammate Andre Ribeiro is out of the race. Michael Andretti goes underneath Alonso Jr. slowing.
If the officials have seen this and they watch this very closely, you do not want oil going down, but doubly you do not want oil going down on your right rear. That's the tire that does all the load around here. Look at the smoke come off of there. I would imagine they're going to have to pull him in and have a look at that one. That's a safety issue for not only Al Jr., but everybody else that's out there.
And the team is saying that they believe it is a leak from the oil catch tank. They're not sure if it's the same problem as Andre Ribeiro, but they're aware of the fact that the car is smoking.
Michael Andretti picks up another spot, going underneath Alex Zanardi and moving into third place. Looking back from Gilles DeFerrin's car at Andretti.
And Jan, one thing about it, whether the oil is from the catch tank or from the real tank or any tank, oil on a high-speed oval under your right rear tire is not a healthy thing.
Last time by, the top 6 cars covered by 1.2 seconds.
So Michael Andretti's right hand go down there, shifted gears.
Down low under DeFerrin. Andretti going for second now. Tracy leads. Seemed like less than 1.2 seconds.
Look at this racing, though. That whole bunch, those are all for positions in there. Every one of those guys in your screen right now is for a position.
Checking speeds at the line for the last lap. And only the computer could work fast enough to split them up. Patrick Carpentier, fastest lap that last time around. Jimmy Vasser, second quick. Vasser may have something to say about this in the second half.
So much of that, though, is the draft that you get, whether you're running side by side with somebody else. Those times do not indicate that they're faster than everybody else, just that they have a better run.
And did you see that last name to which the number 1 arrow finally attached itself? Richie Hearn. On board with Scott Pruitt. Problems on an early pit stop relegated him a lap down. He currently runs in 13th place, 1 spot behind Richie Hearn. The Vistion Reynard Ford on Firestone tires for Pat Patrick Racing. Got a car down to his left, right out by the concrete wall off turn 4. Through the tri-oval area. Actually, it's a D-shaped oval, so there isn't really a dog leg there. Meanwhile, for the lead, green and white Paul Tracy. Down low, a man he has battled with hundreds of times, Michael Andretti. Tracy with a slight speed advantage at last lap, but Andretti slices below him and moves into the race lead.
Paul Tracy says, I'm not having any of that. I want to get up alongside him. He went right back around the outside. Michael moves in, gets that draft, just gets a little bit, dives back out. Paul Tracy still likes that outside line, but he's got a slower car in front of him. Looked like the draft disturbed him a little bit. He had to back off, and Gilles DeFerrin's going to take a run down the inside because Paul had to lift off that slow
down. Jan?
Yes, first they changed the electrical boxes, then they changed the spark plugs, hoping they could find the cause of the misfire. And unfortunately, they were not able to find it, so it appears as though the Toyota power plant may have been damaged. His day is done.
Well, as we continue to watch the Franchitti Montoya battle for second place with Michael and Christian Fittipaldi, the 2 Newman Haas cars, closing in just behind. Try this on for size. Now, officially, you count a lead change at the start-finish line. There have been 21 of those in our 168 laps. 59 different lead changes around the racetrack, though, where there's a pass going into 2 and then a repass going back into 3. We'll take a look at the line as they cross. Leader's been running laps at 220 miles an hour. He does it again.
And as we watch these 2 Renard Honda-powered cars, the Renards look the same from a distance, but what's unique to the Honda-powered cars is that both Montoya, Vassar, and the rest of the gang, Franchitti, Tracy, Kanaan, are all running 95 Renard front wings. The Hondas have a special air snorkel for their turbochargers and air inlets for the engines, and because of the change at the back of the car, they've had to go back to an earlier wing to help balance the car at the front. So some of the cars are running 99 wings if they're of Cosworth or Mercedes power plant, but the Hondas are running 1995 Renard front wings. Just a little interesting insight. What's the difference? Very, very small, but this field is so close and so competitive, and the balance is so close that they're looking for any advantage they can, and going back to an earlier part was the advantage that they needed.
Michael Andretti was the quickest last lap. Now Max Pappas, and he's running alone, by the way, kicks it up to 221.1, fastest on the last lap around. Michael's been having the advantage of being in the tow, and so that's kicking his speed up some. Pappas last time around 220.9.
And we've seen the Rahal team all year long has been consistently the quickest through the speed traps. They do a lot of the Renard aerodynamic development. Rahal in the past himself has always been one of the fastest cars through the traps, and somehow they figured out to produce downforce and straight line speed to find that perfect combination. And Max, without help of the tow, is turning consistently the quickest laps of the field.
You saw the interval. Pappas back to Franchitti. In numbers, it's 4.7 seconds. Franchitti, for the moment, does not have Montoya on top of him, but Montoya does have Michael Andretti charging.
Not get too far back, but not get right up the front. I think we're going to see an interesting finish, though.
I'm sure we are. Sorry, the million isn't going your way.
We'll try next year. Thank you for everything, Guy.
Thank you, Dario.
Dario mentioned chess. That's exactly what this is at 230 miles an hour. There are a lot of physical demands on the body. They're pulling over 4 Gs in these corners for 30% of the lap. But mentally, you are absolutely exhausted after a 500-mile run.
Well, you saw it as D'Amata goes by. Michael finally makes his presence known at the front of the field and gets out in front. Like he did that a little bit past the line, so he's not scored yet as an official leader of the race, but from our point of view, it's Michael Andretti in front for the moment. Whether or not it's worth it to keep trying, I guess it is. You can count on running some more laps under caution before the day is over. But for Tony Kanaan, it's a drop from a battle with the lead to 19th and 2 laps behind the lead.
Four abreast, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Now 3. And every time I watch this onboard, Paul, my heart starts to accelerate. I just miss driving here because this is one of the most phenomenal places to be in a champ car. Wide open, full throttle, the ultimate video game. Well, until something goes wrong, and then it hurts a lot more.
It takes on the aspects of reality real quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Foot Memorial Hospital isn't a great place, but I just hate spending my weekends there if I don't have to.
You ride with Kenny Breck. Lola chassis, Scott.
What is he?
And 24 unofficial lead changes. 44 officially among 10 different drivers. Castro Neves leads. Adrian Fernandez came out into second place. And there's where the game is. Castro Neves trying to get as much of a lead as he can on the remainder of the field so that he can dart into the pits for a splash and go and finish this race in front. While Fernandez, by all good guesses as we look at the pit summary, and Servia suffers heavily because of his penalty. By all guesses, Fernandez goes all the way to the end as they go 4 wide again. Gary?
I can't believe it every time I look up and watch him go 4 wide into that first turn. We just got word from the Fernandez camp. They think they've got the fuel. They think that being last in the sequence.
Front of the field remains very, very tight. The first 7 are all within 1 second, lap after lap. There's a reason why.
And for those of you at home that have never been to a super speedway, until you come down and sit on the entry to turn 1 and watch these cars enter at over 240 miles an hour, over 16,000 RPM, the smell of the methanol, you just can't fathom how fast and how exciting these cars are.
You actually can feel the energy as the car passes you.
More stops to the end.
Christian Fittipaldi is in this fight now, down alongside of Montoya, grabs third place. Another factor, too, to keep in your mind is attrition. Attrition has been fairly high. We have only 14 cars actually in the race now with the retirement of Blundell, and if 2 more go and DeFerrin stays in, this baby is his.
Exactly right. We've seen each engine manufacturer problem have an engine problem. Mercedes is down to one last runner, and that's Michel Jourdain Jr. Everyone seemed to be susceptible. It's very hard on these engines running well over 15,000 RPM. The driver's full throttle most of the time. As I was saying, for the Pat Patrick guys, they aren't full throttle. They're coming off the throttle. They're up in top gear, breathing the engines. They've got to get 2.55 miles per gallon to do it in 2 stops. That's a big number, but not impossible.
Christian Fittipaldi takes the lead going into 1. So Fittipaldi is there now. Breck and Castroneves battle. Well, if those 2 cars would go, that would end Breck stay. It would
get it a little loose or push up high to the fence. That's when you got a problem.
That's exactly right, because you're coming down the straightaway, it's dead on your tail, you turn in, it's kind of diagonal, then it's dead across the side. Sometimes it picks up the nose first. The nose feels the extra downforce a little bit earlier, can pin the nose and get the car loose. Greg Moore back down the inside around Michael again.
I was about to say, our lap times just over 32 seconds now. I wonder if the wind is a factor in the fact that the lap times have slowed slightly. There's the view from our Honda Helicam as this great battle continues through the top 6 places.
Well, look at this. Michael's coming down on the inside. Greg just says, no way. I'm going to stay up high. If you want to go down low, you can have it. Remember one thing, too, as a driver, what I always did on the big super speedways is the flags or wind sockets they have at some of the places. I checked those every lap going into every corner to see if it had changed, so I knew what the wind was going to do to the balance of my car at various spots.
Last lap speed for Greg Moore, 229.24 miles an hour. Well, maybe they're not slowing down all that much.
That's an interesting graphic. 2 cars running right together on the racetrack. One runs 229, the other one runs 224. Obviously, on the next lap, it's just about reversed because they're right in the same spot.
And it depends on who got the benefit, where they timed him. If he got that toe right before the start-finish line, slingshot by him, he's going to have a quicker lap.
The guys right behind those leaders, a great battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th. And one of those battling is Adrian Fernandez, who started at the very back of this field after the crew worked to repair the damaged car yesterday. They were slow comparatively in the morning practice and warm-up session, but he's looking real racy right now.
Adrian Fernandez in the thick of the payday out there in front of him.
And before this race today, gentlemen, Adrian Fernandez in the morning warm-up session quit about 8 minutes early. And one of the teams said it's a case of butterflies. He clearly was being very apprehensive. He knew he had a great opportunity today, and there was all that uncertainty about how the car would respond. I think his patience has been rewarded thus far.
Gilles DeFerrin down under Mauricio Gugelmin in the bright orange car. Let's talk about that payday for Adrian Fernandez, a total of $395,000, which would make this US 500 worth over $1,000 a lap. Michael Andretti in traffic, lifting.
And you saw, was that green and white car, Paul Tracy, one in front of this, shoot around the outside. What happens here is if they get some bad air from a slower car or a car in front of them, they have to back out. It gives them momentum to the guy behind them. And look at Paul Tracy, he's coming strong.
Yeah, that's exactly what Paul Tracy remarked about to Barry Green on the radio. He said, I can't believe how effective the draft is. So then all that Barry said is, well, then let's use it to our advantage.
Well, don't forget, these guys are jockeying right now, finding out what their cars are doing. This is really exciting. And
same results. Maybe we don't need one of those sets of engineers.
And of course, Don Halliday working with Dario Franchitti, Tony Sekeli working with Paul Tracy. You've got Tony Bellite overseeing the engineering and aerodynamic developments. Scott Graves working there. A young man named Brian Page, I believe, an aerodynamicist working there.
I've heard of that kid.
Son of a broadcaster, very, very strong engineering department. well-managed team, really coming into its own. Oh, you hear Michael having to lift there. Couldn't quite let the car out to the exit with Dario where he was. Dario not quite using up all the road on the exit. Michael obviously wanting to use all of it that he can. You can see how he can make the move down on the inside. He's carrying a lot more throttle. We can hear it on the audio from the onboard camera than he was able to before because of that increased downforce.
Whoa, what a quick move by Franchitti. And look at Christian Fittipaldi working on Tracy.
And you've got to be really careful when you pull down that fast because you have no air over the front of the car in the draft. And as the car clears the one in front of it and gets fresh.
Needs some more wing on the next stop. Definitely some more wing.
Dario asking for more wing.
And Kenny Breck finds himself in the middle of traffic as well. Oh.
This is when you don't want to step out of line. I mean, these guys are running wheel to wheel, side by side, 3 wide. Everybody has to keep their wits, keep their head about them. Any little
way up in the gray.
Oh, right there.
That's where we saw it before. He just got pushed up really high in 3-4. And that's...
Michel Jourdain Jr. is coming in to challenge Kenny Breck. Jourdain Jr. low. Now Breck's having to fight that car. Again going high, cost him.
Looking inside.
Here comes Michael Andretti low. Franchitti closes on the back of Breck. Is that momentum, Parker? It just takes that long for him to clean the tires and get back up to speed?
It does.
Wow.
Back a little further at Moreno and Fernandez in 8th and 9th place, trying to figure out what those telemetry numbers say that are going to the Patrick Racing team. These guys, even though we keep watching the front, if they have to make that additional stop, these 2 Patrick drivers will be right at the front. It could reshuffle the entire order and, of course, have championship implications.
Well, there is tag with the Farron. And back up to the front. We are enjoying an incredible run at California Speedway in the 500. The battle for the championship and the battle for the $1 million to the winner of this race. Hit it, but not too hard.
That's exactly right.
And that's not the first time, though, that we've seen problems with that particular sensor, where actually a couple of times we've had reports of the cable to that sensor completely falling off.
Juan Montoya Motegi just a few years ago, comfortably leading the race, fell off, took Toyota's victory away.
Patrick Carpentier now to 4th. Max Pappas, Cristiano D'Amata, Casey Mears, and now Carpentier having a very interesting...
At the bottom of your screen because it's changing constantly. 41 official lead changes thus far. A long way to go. We'd have to say the experiment with the Handford device has been a huge success in terms of the racing. Formation flying at 220 miles an hour.
To update you on Mark Blundell, it turned out it was not fuel for him because he had pitted just on the previous lap. When he left pit road, they suspected something might have happened at the right rear. He came back in and said the steering was not working properly. So they checked all 4 corners of the car. He actually came in twice. They sent him back out. They cannot find a problem with the car.
Mark Blundell, winner of the most recent 500-mile race in the FedEx Championship Series on the 2-mile oval at Fontana, California, where we will finish the 1998 season.
Look at these guys. This is wheel-to-wheel, as exciting as it gets. These are all for positions except for Castro Neves. You saw a blue and white kind of red stripe car in there. He's in 18th spot, and he's battling with these guys.
Michael Andretti down low, Paul Tracy up high. There's Gilles de Ferran and Adrian Fernandez. These guys all going for position, and the red car just leaving your screen. Alex Zanardi is the race leader. The top 5 running nose to tail.
Danny, I have a quick question for you.
Max Pappas and Montoya battle. Pappas gets around him. That's the 2nd place for Pappas as he's working his way back to the lead. Now 3 1/4 seconds behind the leader, Fittipaldi. But here comes Montoya again. They use P.J. Jones.
Oh, down on the apron.
Montoya gets in.
Wow, that is a really, really risky maneuver. You could see the car move underneath him. Basically, it's like you're driving on 3.5 wheels there because the inside wheels are barely on the asphalt.
12.4, the average speed, including the yellow, at 161.9 miles an hour. And on the inside, you got a glimpse of him there. Alex Barron, who, remember, right after they started engines, came into the pits, had to have him work on his car. He's up in 8th place right now. He's replaced, as you will remember, Max Wilson in that car.
He had a great run last year, both at Surfers and here at Fontana, until he had mechanical problems right at the end. He's driving a 2000 version Lola. The 2001 remains in its elementary components in some form down at Surfers.
In several different places.
I spoke with Alex yesterday. He said it wasn't that big of a disadvantage. Maybe in qualifying it was, but running in this pack, he didn't feel that he would have that big of a problem with a year-old car.
Michael Andretti, officially the leader last time around. But Max Pappas will be scored as the leader as Michael drops back to 4th. Pappas was followed by D'Amata and Casey Mears. How tight the front of the field is.
That is so cool.
That was them.
I'm looking for the stragglers.
Michael, inside.
These guys are only occupying.
Still there, you're clear.
These guys are only occupying about a quarter to a quarter and a half of racetrack. Drivers have.
That other car is Fernandez now coming up to the front.
It's amazing. Big difference in preference of drivers. Some guys like spotters talking to them like this the whole race. Other drivers like myself, Carpente, for example, they don't want to hear anything unless it's absolutely critical. You have good situational awareness. You know where these cars are. You can feel them coming up behind you. You might lose them a little bit to the sides as they're coming up around you, but you have that feel. I just seem to remain focused, not have someone yakking at me the whole race. Other drivers need that constant link, that constant communication.
You got a momentary view of Roberto Moreno. There he is again. We last saw him when he was going fairly slow. Then we had no further reports, but Moreno is up running in the top 10 now, along with his teammate Jimmy Vasser. Let's go again to Scott Pruitt.
Well, I'm going to update on the Fernandez team. They've had and have seen all these engine failures as well as having another than themselves. So I just got done talking to them, and they said, you know what, we're playing it very, very conservative. We want to make it to the checkered flag, so we're being very, very easy on the engine right now. So that's what they're doing.
I talked about the coaching that's been going on since the beginning of the race. You absolutely have to convince your driver that he's got to stay back. He's got to let someone else take the point, punch the hole in the air, use up their engine. You've just got to find a place to be comfortable. I've been watching Vasser this last few laps. A lot of these guys will go in 2, 3 abreast. Jimmy a little bit more conservative. You see him down low there, the back of the screen. He doesn't want to get pinched down low or forced up high, either on the entry or the exit of these corners. So not only there he is, not only taking care of his car but with the engine, but making sure right there that he's got plenty of room. He's not taking any chances in the way in or the way out of the corner.
Adrian Fernandez is now scored as a leader of the race. We've had 48 lead changes, 13 different leaders. There is Adrian, especially coming off of 2, is pretty badly scarred now. A couple of contacts with that wall, none of them involving injury. Now we look back. Tony Kanaan in 6th. Christian Fittipaldi comes around, takes 6th away from him. It's Pappas, Andretti, Franchitti, Montoya, Tracy, and then this fight. Look at them. They're all right there, right together. Closing laps of the U.S. 500. They've been side by side most of the day. The opening laps were spectacular. This man, Michael Andretti, battled with Montoya, swapping back and forth. And they continue to swap back and forth. Only the names change.
You get so used to watching these cars go around Michigan, you forget how fast they're going. Focus on the fence up on the right-hand side and watch how fast it's going by. These guys are going almost 350 feet a second. You make a decision 1/10 of a second too late, Paul, and you're 35 feet up into the wall. So all the decisions they're making are in tenths, hundreds, and thousands of a second. They've got to be consistent every single time. And the Handford device allows this great drafting battle that we're seeing.
here how much more throttle he's carrying down the inside than before. Hopefully they've made the right choice and they've got the straight-line speed that they need in order to make the move they want at the end of the race.
Max Pappas continues to lead. He's led the most laps to this point. But 10 times in this race, 19 years of the race, the driver leading the most laps has not won.
And Max Pappas continues to extend his lead. I thought for certain that the cars working together in the draft behind him would be able to catch it. But right now, Max is one of the few cars that can consistently run in the low 221s. Everybody else just a tick slower than that. And I'm not sure if they're just defeating any advantage they might have getting side by side through turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. The cars are washing out. They're having to lift off the throttle. It looks like Max is just full throttle around the entire track in clean air.
Richie Hearn, well, he's 20.
For every 2 miles around here, you're out, because these cars now have been absolutely fine-tuned by the end of the season to pick up every drop of fuel. But if it was Christian Fittipaldi that we did here, he's staying out.
Very important. This mileage to finish.
No movement in the Newman Haas pits, as if they are ready to refuel Christian Fittipaldi as he drops back into third. And for the first time that I've noticed it, Kenny Breck actually outruns the high line on Castroneves.
Hey, Paul?
Yeah.
According to the team, they say that it wasn't fuel pressure. He's asking what kind of mileage does he need to get. It sure sounded like fuel pressure, didn't it?
Sure did to me.
I think that was Portuguese for fuel pressure anyway.
Portuguese, the native language of Brazil, which Parker also speaks fluently in Gibby, of course.
We just intercepted another radio conversation, Jan. And in fact, now they are talking about mileage. Their calculation was exactly what I had, 2.55 miles per gallon. That's a big number, but not impossible if you stick back in the draft.
Carpentier's back into the pits. What a great run for Alex Barron, though. See him up here running in the front of this field. He's dropped back to 7th now, but he's in there, he's fighting, he's putting on a show, and he needs to do that because he's one of those guys that certainly is a candidate for a seat next year on a full-time ride. Enjoying this as much as we are. The battle for the championship, a great battle for the lead at the 500. We'll be back.
He went up high. Paul Tracy had to move up a little bit because of Alex Zanardi. Little Al had to lift off going into 3.
But he keeps Gilles de Ferran behind him. Behind de Ferran, it is Greg Moore, Jimmy Vasser, Richie Hearn, Michael Andretti, Brian Herta, Bobby Rahal, and Michael Andretti. Andretti going backwards down the timing list, and there is why. He's in the pit lane. And he exits immediately. He was called in for a pit infraction, we are told. Running over an air hose in the pit lane. So Michael Andretti suffers all the way back to 12th place.
Did you see how close that was with Paul Tracy when he drafted Alex Zanardi? Boy, he just by inches pulled out around him.
Enzo Jr. third. Looked like he had a thought about the inside there. Tracy, Zanardi, and now Gilles de Ferran attacking Alonso Jr. for third.
And right behind them, guys, Jimmy Vasser. Remember the problem he had on that drive-through penalty? This last yellow has enabled him to catch up with the lead pack. He could be a factor here very shortly.
It also looked like Michael Andretti, he got the drive-through, but he was far enough up there. I think he stayed on the lead lap. So he'll try to work his way back up, hope for a yellow, see if he can get back in the hunt.
Two separate battles here. You see up front, it's Tracy, Zanardi, and Unser. Behind them, Gilles de Ferran, Greg Moore, Jimmy Vasser, and I believe Richie Hearn also in that battle over 4th place. And they are catching up to the front 3.
The more these guys battle, the more it holds them up. For a yellow right now, as is Gilles de Ferran, so they could get back on the lead lap.
He just went smoking right around the outside of Mo Gugelmin. Up in the second on the track. Now Gugelmin smoking right back around him. Greg Moore doing the same. There's Gugelmin getting back, putting Robbie another lap down effectively. Or back a lap down, I should say.
On board with Michael Andretti. There's Greg Moore. Nose to tail, across the line they go. Now Michael Andretti goes down low under Moore. Just ahead of him, Robbie Gordon doing the same thing.
And they pick their line. Michael goes low, Greg Moore goes high. Which is going to be quicker? That slow car in the middle right there. Bobby Rahal probably affected. Look at that. They dive out all the way down over the white line down the back straightaway.
Rahal went underneath Robbie Gordon, headed backwards. It was Rahal under Gordon, not the other way around. Then Rahal had to back out of it big time, and you saw what happened to the cars behind.
You saw Greg Moore popped out. Alex Zanardi was trying to get by Greg at the same time. 4 wide, big scramble. Now you see in-car for Michael. That's Zanardi up on the right, Greg Moore to the left. All going around the outside of Rahal now. Here comes Paul Tracy mixing it up. This is what we saw for 500 miles. Now the guys, the chips are down. They're ready to get racing.
This is a mixture of cars a lap down and cars on the lead lap, but everybody racing hard. Into turn 3 they go. Michael Andretti. Alex Zanardi in the middle of all that. Zanardi currently shown in 6th place. Will unwind him at the start-finish line. As DeFerrin crosses back on the lead lap. The order is Gugelmin, Vassar, Andretti, Tracy, Zanardi in 5th. Greg Moore 6th. Adrian Fernandez 7th. Richie Hearn 8th. Christian Fittipaldi 9th. Mark Blundell in 10th.
Paul Tracy was going to swing around the outside of Rahal. Rahal moved up about a half a groove. Then Zanardi popping down underneath. Look at that. Oh, Paul got enough of a draft from Bobby that he was able to sneak back in front of Alex.
When you get pinched in, look at this, Greg Moore. 3 abreast on the outside. Greg had to think better of it. Backed off a little bit. Wants to get that toe. So does Zanardi. He tries to ease up there.
We talked about if anyone can make that move, Greg has been kind of testing the high line. Wasn't quite ready to make it 3 wide, but has been checking it out. On the last lap, he'll do it.
Watching Bobby Rahal, who at the beginning of his career raced at the old Ontario Motor Speedway, just a few miles down Interstate 10 from this track in Fontana, California. He raced a Formula Atlantic, and he started on the front row for that race alongside the late Formula One legend Gilles Villeneuve. Bobby, the only driver in this field who raced at the old Ontario.
And Bobby Rahal, of course, does not want to give up that spot to anybody. He's still trying to get himself back onto the lead lap.
Zanardi eyeing the 3-time champion in his final race. 2 men in their final race in the series.
And the Firestones come in so quickly. If you have a lot of confidence in your car, you can run out of the pits, down into turn 3, nearly flat, and do the first flying lap flat out or very, very close to it. And as pumped as Tony Kanaan is, you know he's going to push absolutely as hard as he can. This could be the best finish for Tony Kanaan this year.
Andretti and Franchitti split Dennis Vitolo and continue to hammer at one another. Montoya is just behind them. Jan?
Yes, just monitored a radio conversation between Bobby Rahal and Max Pappas. Bobby said, "Run hard, Max. This is your race to win, baby."
And down here in Tony Kanaan's pit, they're telling him, Jan, this is it, the run for the money. So a little cheerleading going on. The pit work is done. We'll run to the checkered with 20 laps to go.
Stops are complete. The crews become spectators now, and you can bet they are loud. Look at this fight. Montoya comes down to the inside. 3-way battle for 3rd. Pappas, then Kanaan, and then this fight.
Paul, we talk so much about the pit stops themselves, but you got to remember a lot of the time is the drivers coming off the track and then getting back up to speed. Before that round of pit stops, Max Pappas was 3 seconds ahead of the pursuing group. Now after those pit stops,
your screen there moved up a little bit. That's probably the disturbed air. You got to be careful not to get up in that gray. We've seen 2 accidents up there so far today.
On board now with Richie Hearn.
And you heard him and saw him downshift into a lower gear so he can get a run off of here.
Alonso Jr. to the left, Alex Zanardi to the right. Alonso Jr. challenging for the race lead, up high around Zanardi. If he gets to the stripe first, check that lap up to Little Al.
And listen to the crowd. He got there, but Alex Zanardi then pulled right back by him just after the start-finish line. Look at this, 1st to 5th in a matter of going from over the start-finish line to 1st. He's slowing.
Is there a action and averaging every pit stop? Now, the drivers actually can see what their fuel mileage is in real time.
Yeah, they've been able to do that for a while. I actually watched mine run out of fuel while I was leading at Michigan once while I was arguing with the guys in the pits. They said, "Nah, you got plenty left." I said, "I don't think
think so, and as it went to 0, it coughed. But there are fuel transducers on the cars to measure. 2.6. That's a really big number. I think you get extra. I think you get extra stamps if you make that number. But you've got the fuel transducer on the car. They also look at the flow out of the tanks themselves, and they weigh the tanks, which is probably the most accurate of all measures. They know how much a gallon of fuel weighs of the methanol, and they can tell how much they're putting in the cars, and then be able to verify what the fuel transducer is telling them from the car itself.
Moreno, then Pappas, Moreno again, Pappas again. They were 4 wide at the line last time around.
Lap 204. Everybody packs up. Everybody saving fuel. You're hitting the worst of everybody right now. Inside. You're clear.
And the difference between the front and mid-pack, 2.2 miles per gallon up to 3 miles per gallon in the middle of this tussle. You can see everybody is just looking for room to run because nobody actually wants to go forward.
Oh, 4 wide there. They're getting braver and braver.
The target, guys, for D'Amata is 2.6. So he's right in the middle of what you were talking about there, Parker.
Tony Kanaan takes the lead. 66 lead changes, 18 different leaders. Fernandez brings them back to the green. Franchitti moves high, Michael comes low. They work to split Carpentier. Michael gets down under him, goes to second.
And this is the Saturday night main event, sprint to the finish. Castroneves, the only guy with fresh tires. It'll be a slight advantage.
Franchitti comes back at Carpentier.
Oh, they're close there.
That fights for third.
Any courtesy that the drivers have been extending to one another during the course of this race is about to evaporate.
You used to be my friend. Michael Andretti takes the lead away from Fernandez. Here comes Franchitti. Not meaning you, Parker, meaning the guys to one another. Max Pappas now begins to work on Carpentier for fourth. There's Pappas down low on Carpentier. Fight for second. Fernandez grabs second.
Oh, look how close they are up on the exit there. That's exactly what I was talking about. Adrian left him a car width and a couple inches out to the wall. Dario tucked in back behind.
While we watch this at the front, Montoya is going just as fast as he can. He's up to seventh now.
And you can see him there.
Overtake anytime you want.
Castroneves up to sixth. You can see him right there at the back.
Barry Green telling Paul Tracy to use the overtake button. That puts it in full rich, full advance on the timing. There goes Montoya. And here he comes.
Montoya's not been up at the front of the field since the 164th lap, but he spent a lot of time in second place. Andretti stretches the lead to 0.8 of a second. Montoya goes alongside Franchitti. Fernandez has fallen all the way back to fifth. They're going to the closing laps now. Andretti, Montoya, Franchitti. It's going to be a fight to the finish.
500-mile race. It's interestingly enough, for these 500-mile races, some of the cars have actually carried onboard oil tanks. I've been there, I've done it in the past, where getting down towards the end, you'll actually turn the oil pump on and put a quart or two in it. To do it manually is a little bit of a change, but we've had the option to do that from the car, from the cockpit in years gone by.
Oh, and you remember when it used to be illegal? Remember Parnelli Jones at the Indy 500 and the big argument with J.C. Agajanian and the chief steward Harlan Fengler out on the line?
Well, Toyota was the first manufacturer to do that, to use a reserve oil tank that you could pump during the course of the race. The reason for that is These engines are run very loose internally to try to reduce internal engine friction to get as much horsepower as possible. They burn a lot of oil, and therefore, with that consumption, they need to be able to transfer more into the dry sump during the event.
Branchides back to the lead again. In second place is Kenny Breck. Now, you know, we normally try and show you the scoring in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Well, it's not just the computers and batteries on race cars that suffer from the heat. We've got a little bit of a problem with the computer that generates that. I can assure you the scoring we're telling you is coming directly from CART and therefore accurate. We're going to try and get it fixed, and we apologize that it's not there.
You know, we haven't talked at all today about Firestone and the tires. Even though as hot as it is today, I had a chance to talk to a couple of the Firestone representatives. They said tires are not a problem. Remember, we've been running around here at 230, 240 miles an hour. Today, we're not running those speeds. So today, tires are not a problem whatsoever.
Branchides, Breck, Pappas, Gary Gerald.
Interesting conversation a few moments ago. We saw Scott Remke leave his scoring stand, come over to talk to Mark Johnson. Johnson on the radio to Mac Pappas, Remke on the radio to Kenny Breck. They've been two major players all day long. The conversation then on the radio to Kenny Breck said, you have to get 2.8 miles per gallon and fall back to make it happen. He just said, do it. Meanwhile, Johnson told Max, do whatever you have to do, but we need to make 2.75 miles per gallon. So they're still going to have to stretch it a bunch to get home without a splash before the end.
And Gary, the championship points are only split by one apiece at that point. If they finish this way, DeFerrin is the champion.
As they come back up to speed, Alex Tagliani will get a black flag, stop and go for Brush and a teammate as he came in to change the left rear. Roberto Moreno brings him back to the green, or excuse me, Casey Mears brings them back to the green flag, but Alex Barron immediately moves out and around him. Moreno is in there too, but Alex Barron goes to the front. Players are back in the back of the field trying to come forward.
As they came back to green, the radio was alive with them telling the drivers, use as much fuel as you need. They're going to have to make one more stop unless this race slows down significantly because of a lot of yellow.
Montoya comes low, Castroneves goes high. They come up alongside of Casey Mears. Montoya takes second away from Mears. Mears goes low, Castroneves high. Castroneves to third. Now they chase Alex Barron. Both Montoya and Castroneves look for the front.
And Montoya now has broken the draft at this distance. Jan, just as we've talked about, I have to agree with you. I think Montoya's got the most in reserve. He's had it all year long. He's led twice as many laps as anybody else. He's the guy that can go the fastest on the least amount of mileage with the car that's just the hairiest to hang up.
There's Greg Moore. See, now, that's one of those things where you have to get far enough around that the guy acknowledges that you're there, or the spotter tells him, because his line is to go all the way out to the wall. So that's always the hair-raising part, is right on the exit. Does he see you? Is he going to leave you room?
And he had to back off. Greg Moore did. So look who's taking advantage of it. Alex Zanardi. That's the problem right now. If you breathe that throttle a little bit, look out for the guys behind you. And look at Greg Moore right back around the outside. Said, hey, I'm not finished with you. Little puff of smoke.
That was from the oil side for Michael's exit.
Yep. That shows how high he was.
Exactly.
Up there.
Right up there where all the dirt piles up at the foot of the concrete wall.
And now Greg Moore takes the inside line and takes second spot. And here comes Alex Zanardi as well.
Here we go.
Now if Maurizio goes to Jimmy Vassar, going by both of them.
This is Vassar's bid for at least $500,000 and possibly doubling it to $1 million. Vassar moving forward. 50 laps to go, 50 miles to go. There'll be 24 laps to go as they flash across the stripe.
And let me tell you, if Maurizio Gugelmin's confident and they're just sitting back there cruising in fifth gear, he better not do it for too long.
Adrian Fernandez trying to come forward, Tommy.
Greg Moore also has drawn a bead on Paul Tracy.
Down the backstretch they go. Tracy, Moore, Vassar, Zanardi.
That high groove I talked about with Greg Moore,
Checking the speeds from the last lap. 223 for Zanardi. Greg Moore now up high on Scott Pruitt. But Pruitt holds him off.
Jimmy Vasser's making a move down the back straight on his teammate.
Now keep in mind, Zanardi has that 69-point lead. Even if he were inclined to take a few risks here in order to win the race, he really doesn't need to do that. He is so comfortably out front of the championship, he can give away 3 races full of points. Of course, Alex Zanardi would never admit to that.
And now let me tell you, he just came back very strong around the outside. That may be the case. Be conservative. He's got a big cushion. There's a reason he's a champion. He wants to win the race today.
Whether Alex Zanardi remains with Target Chip Ganassi Racing next year or moves on to Formula One, that will be a story for weeks to come. Right now, he is totally focused, and his focus is absolutely amazing. He can put aside such concerns as the fact that his wife spent an overnight in the hospital while carrying their first child earlier this week. On the racetrack, he simply drops the visor, and he is in his own world. Right now, he's got to deal with his teammate, and here comes DeFerrin.
And look at Jimmy Vasser. He dove down the inside, trying to break a little bit of that draft, using some IROC techniques that he's learned. Don't let those guys get too close.
Trying to use Robbie Gordon there, can't do it.
Montoya anticipated that traffic really well. He came off the corner, well aware of the position of Robbie Gordon. They put Herta down. Now Castroneves moves to the outside, and this time it works for him. So with a little help from Herta, Helio Castroneves moves up into 4th place and around Montoya. Crew is laid out for
conservatively, but he knows now he's got to get up to speed quickly, get by Montoya, and go after Kanaan if he's got a chance at Pappas.
That's what Jimmy Vasser has done today. Fell down to the bottom of the top 10. Now he's up here with Montoya, and he's around him. Vasser picks up 3rd place.
Going into this race, Jimmy Vasser, one of my top picks to win this race. He's done it before. He knows what the car has to feel like. He knows how patient you have to be in the beginning.
Teammates battle for 3rd. Interval from the leader to 2nd place, Tony Kanaan. Now 1.4 seconds. He whittled off 3/10 just in that last lap. This is the closest battle, but down to 9th place, Christian Fittipaldi, only 13 seconds over. Well, the record number of lead changes, 62 at the 98 Michigan 500. There were 52 this year at Michigan. And as Jourdain closes in, there's been a 53 official lead changes. And now 4.
Look at that. Alex Barron back by Jourdain. Jourdain takes the lead for a moment, then Alex Barron comes out to the front.
But you notice now.
Oh, I just heard an engine go off. Was that Jourdain's? We saw him just drop off the screen there. It looks like Mercedes-Benz may be going out of the series with a bang, Paul.
Well, Jourdain is still rolling.
No, but I
pull off the speed.
So at about 3 wins.
Bruno, I don't know if map switch 5 might be a little too much. That might be a little too much.
And I'm sure it is. It's so easy to do it from up here, though. Oh, listen, he's completely backed out of the throttle now going through the corner. Cristiano D'Amata trying to make that number at 2.9.
Anybody else, please lead this thing.
And that's what happens. One of the problems that you get when people are backed off and you're running so close is that the methanol itself doesn't dissipate as quickly because you're not cutting through the air as fast. It burbles up in this turbulence, and it can almost get to the point where you can't breathe. Your eyes start to tear. That's toxic stuff, and it can be very difficult just trying to remain focused and concentrate.
Fernandez and Tagliani come forward. Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, we're already hearing from some of these teams that they're concerned. Obviously, we know nobody wants to lead. Everybody needs to conserve fuel. The target number seems to be 2.8 to 2.9, but we're already hearing some teams saying it looks like we may be able to get only to lap 227, maybe 228. And the distance is 230.
The guy to keep
The guy to keep your eye on here is Oriol Servia. He has been the mileage king all day long, going laps farther than anybody else. So right now, Oriol, there you see him. Last time across the strip was in 6th place. But this young driver from Catalonia has been getting great mileage all day long.
He's racing now with Tag. Carpentier takes the lead away from Moreno. It's amazing.
And that speed graphic said everything. Quick lap 220, last lap 203.
Laps to go at the Michigan 500. Michael coming back at Montoya.
You can see the power of the draft there.
Last week on the streets of Toronto, we said that 40th win for Michael would help be an incentive. And it has given him new life, new vigor. Pappas continues to battle with Franchitti for 3rd. Then Carpentier, Castroneves, and Fernandez.
There.
Montoya and Andretti, both in Lola chassis, being followed by a couple of Bernard chassis. But right now it's Toyota versus Ford. Andretti versus Montoya.
Is that our 50th lead change?
6 to go. 6 to go.
In that engine battle, Toyota v Ford. That's for enormous bragging rights.
For Juan Montoya, this is his 4th 500-mile race. For Michael Andretti, his 37th. Montoya, the only other driver in this series to compete in another 500-mile race.
Oh, Mikey makes a quick move to dart out, grabs the lead again from Montoya.
And right now, these two are trying to figure out the ultimate strategy that puts them
5 to go. 5 to go.
a nose ahead right there at the start-finish stripe. Do they have to be high or low going down that back straightaway into the last corner so they can draft up and lead coming off of turn 4? Maybe you want to be second. Maybe you've got enough time to pop out and draft by. But it looks, I've been watching this game, Paul. It's been very, very close. The following driver going into turn 3 can get up side by side, but can't get a definite advantage by the time they get to the start-finish stripe. If start-finish was down another 50 to 100 yards, it would work.
The timing line is a little bit down this year. They had to move it down a little bit just to get a good cut into the track surface for the computerized scoring antenna that reads the transponder. Tony Kanaan last year took the lead and won this race in the last mile. John Paul Jr. did the same racing with Rick Mears. Last mile of the race, took the lead and the win.
You can see that time what Montoya did is he blocked off the inside going into turn 3. Whoa, left Michael the high side. And if Montoya can get a little farther out, he'll break the draft. He's still putting up a big enough wind shadow at this distance for Michael to get him.
Max Pappas finally had his problem develop into something truly serious and is off the run. Jan Vikas.
He called on the radio and said, I think the engine's gone. He's just trying to bring it home if he can.
Montoya, Andretti, Franchitti, now Carpentier to 4th. Castroneves and Fernandez battle for 5th. But the big fight is here at the front of the field.
Will it play out this way? Will you be able to draft on that last lap down the backside? Let's see if Montoya can come back before the start-finish stripe.
Okay,
it doesn't look like it.
Last lap, 1 to go.
Michael wanted the lead with 1 lap to go.
I'm surprised at that. But Juan takes it back.
Montoya down inside. Montoya takes the lead of the race. Carso Marquez, a slower car just ahead. Michael darts out on the backstretch. Michael tries to get it down inside. Montoya's going to stay right there on the outside. The slower car is just ahead. Montoya. Now Andretti, and they almost touched. They may have touched. The slower car is going to be a factor as Montoya brings him to the line. And Montoya takes the Michigan 500.
The inaugural U.S. 500 2 years ago. brings them to the line, and Zanardi is on the move.
And even with that jump, so look at Zanardi. He drafted him right around the outside.
5 laps to go. 10 miles remaining of 500 at Michigan.
I think Zanardi hit that little extra power button right there.
Could have been. Hit the button that gave him a few extra revs exactly when he needed it. Right up to the 15,000 RPM maximum.
Well, let's see if Scott Pruitt called it and said you do not want to be leading that last lap.
Here comes Vassar up high around his teammate. I've got a button too, Padre. Zanardi and Vassar behind him. It's Pruitt, Moore, Bobby Rahal in there, Richie Hearn,
and look at Greg Moore in the blue car.
Yep.
He's coming right down along Jimmy Vassar.
Close.
And let's not forget, Scott Pruitt's been in this position before. And smoke out of Jimmy Vassar. Smoke on the right side of Jimmy Vassar.
That's Pruitt just behind. That's Zanardi's car. That is Zanardi.
I'm so excited up here. I got the cars wrong. Look at that smoke down there. Zanardi slowing, came down the inside. He wants those points. Is he going to try to nurse it? No, he's going for it.
And there was another very evil-sounding car out there further back in the pack.
And look at this.
Here goes Moore. Moore going for the lead around Jimmy Vassar.
And even over the roar of the engines, you can hear this huge crowd with a giant roar as Moore goes on top.
And here comes Jimmy. He's coming back around the outside.
Pruitt down low for third. Oh, Zanardi has still got his foot in it.
And look at this. This looks like the first lap of the race.
White flag next time by. Vassar and Moore. Zanardi has dropped back a few car lengths. Pruitt has dropped back behind him.
Moore tried to look underneath. Not having it.
It appears that these two men will decide it. White flag for Jimmy Vassar. Zanardi attacking for third. Make that second. Oh, will they go 3 wide? No.
Is this a ploy by Jimmy Vassar to back off a little bit, get Greg Moore's draft, and see if he can snooker him on the last lap? Look at Jimmy coming.
Here comes Zanardi. Does he have the horsepower despite that smoke from the back of the car? Greg Moore draws to a couple of car lengths away, and he will win the US 500. And I believe Jimmy Vassar hung on for second over his teammate as Alex Zanardi's engine coughs its last.
And I can tell you, Scott Pruitt was right. You don't want to lead the last lap. Greg Moore passed him, and look at that.
The 17th different winner in 19 500-mile races here at Michigan. And for Greg Moore, this is...
White flag. I'll tell him just 2 miles, 1 lap to go. And if he can do it, he becomes the 6th driver to score his first career win in a 500-mile race at Michigan. Now 1 lap to go. Max Pappas is on the final lap for Bobby Rahal. Kanaan crossed the line 3 seconds behind him. Montoya 4 seconds back. Down the back straightaway. Will Max Pappas become the 3rd first-time winner this year? It sure looks that way. He runs out of fuel. He runs out of fuel. Kanaan screams past. Kanaan screams into the lead. Montoya's trying to chase him to the line. Oh, so very close. Montoya jumped low at the line. It looked for a moment there like Pappas was just slowing for the flag, and then he slowed.
On that power.
Believe me, they've got their foot on the brake right now, one on the gas, trying to hold it down there and spool it up. You saw Zanardi's car on the outside get a little twitch.
Here we go.
By going now, they see the green isn't out yet, so they cannot pass him, even if they have a run on him. So by going early, he's able to build ahead of steam. The starter still hasn't displayed the green flag.
Now the green is out. Let's see if any of them time it. Vassar's making a bid. Vassar takes the lead. Green on right side. Zanardi almost touches wheels with Moore. The 2 target teammates are first and second.
And you saw Zanardi had to lift off a little bit when he went into 1, held up Moore a little bit, gave that Jimmy that little break. That might be enough.
Here comes Moore. Here comes Moore. Zanardi low, Moore up high.
And this is helping Jimmy Vassar get away.
No,
These guys are coming on him.
No, Vassar's out in front by about 5 car lengths. They come off the turn now. Can he hold on? Can he hold on
for $1 million? Yes, Jimmy Vasser, with his fifth in the air, wins $1 million at the 500.
$1.5 million at the flag. That was for second in the championship. $1.5 million for Jimmy Vasser.
Yourself, guys.
Carpentier took the lead for the moment. Herta is back in the lead. Here comes Carpentier. Franchitti tucks in. They go 3 wide at the line.
I love this place. Look at this. 3 abreast, 4 with Jourdain in there. Cristiano D'Amato working his way up, the last car on the lead lap. It looks like a pace lap at 220 miles an hour.
And this is what Michigan's all about. You talk about close racing. This is the essence of it right here. Michel Jourdain back to the lead. Unbelievable, side-by-side, wheel-to-wheel racing.
Guys, does this bring back memories of some of the earlier races when you had the underdogs, guys like Jose Lee Garza, Pancho Carter, John Paul Jr. battling for a lead at Michigan?
That's exactly what it's been since 1981. And to think that this is the last race for CART, there's no 500 scheduled here for next year. Maybe that'll get corrected. Here comes Franchitti. Franchitti to the lead.
Dario has never won on an oval, let alone a 500-mile race. And he said, look, I'm tired of this. I know I can win on all of these circuits. He and his engineer, Ian Watt, working very closely all year long, but he's got a few guys that want to dispute whether he's going to win or whether they will.
But Brian Herta was right down on the flat as they came across there.
Start watching who's good up high.
But don't count out Cristiano D'Amato. He's still got his nose in there. 156 unofficial lead changes. You saw the 50 at the line. 9 different leaders.
Carpentier, a couple of interesting radio conversations. He said, I don't have a car to lead, but I have a car to win. They're telling him to stay second until turn 2 of the last lap. So that's the strategical information from his pits, but only Patrick knows what's best on the track.
If you can do it, you want to take the lead going into 3. Let the car slide up in front of the guy behind you. Take a little air off his nose and go onto the checkered flag.
10 miles to go, less than that now. You ride with Cristiano D'Amato.
And he's not going to lift this time through start-finish, but he had to there as he got boxed in on the high side of 1.
Remember, their crew has struggled with a car that doesn't have all of its jacking system working throughout the day. So his stops have been a little longer. Consider that when we see the margin of victory here in 4 laps.
The Newman Haas boys stayed after it all day long. It's paid off now with Cristiano 4th that time past the line. Falling back a little bit, but he very much is in this with now just 3 laps to go.
There you go as they cross the line. They go 3 wide again. Carpentier comes down inside.
As these 2 lead cars run side by side, that leaves a bigger hole for the guy back in 3rd. That's why we're seeing these guys back in 3rd, 4th position make big jumps up to the lead.
Well, we've seen it looks so far like Jourdain and Franchitti have had the strongest cars, but Herta seems to have been okay to run where he is, but he's got to get up there now if he wants to fight for the win here. Carpentier and Franchitti can effectively, oh, there goes Jourdain.
We talked about that big hole those 2 cars lead. Now Jourdain just slips right through where they're running side by side, leaves a big hole, and they just slip right up to the lead.
Now the key is, where do I want to place myself for this final lap? Probably not the lead.
And the problem Herta's got, he's now got Tracy and Tagliani keeping him from this lead group. I think he's fallen out of it. He's too far back.
Just remember, they're going to be able to draft past you, so let them have it.
Where do you want to be, Paul? What's the answer to the biggest question of the 500-miler?
I'm thinking right now I want to be in 2nd. Tagliani's going to figure into this finish as he runs up there with everybody else.
Last lap.
Oh!
They touched.
Oh, that one was close. So Tagliani comes up there.
Whoa. Man, Jourdain almost slid up into Franchitti now. But it's the 2 teammates helping each other.
And it may be Carpentier looking for his first ever win. Carpentier at the line. Patrick Carpentier takes his first victory.
Wow, that was awesome.
Oh, that's the way to do it, Patrick. The French-Canadian with an incredible victory by 24/100ths of a second. His 79th start. I'm going to celebrate.
Nice job.
They have run the last lap of the Michigan 500.